The Journey of the Mechas. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 51. The same place. Yang Mu hurried out of the restaurant where he had eaten. At the gate of Halen University, Yang Mu saw Chen Ke, who had been waiting there for a long time. This was the place Chen Ke chose. It was a coincidence that this place was very close to Halen No. 1 Middle School, just across the street. Halen University was also a first-class university in PAJR. Yang Mu's school teachers often use this school to motivate students. If you don't study hard, you won't have the opportunity to go to school next door in the future. However, in Yang Mu's opinion, there should be no students in Halen No. 1 Middle School who want to study in this university next door. Today, Chen Ke rarely wore a skirt, light blue and white, with long black hair draped over her shoulders, which made her look even color and more beautiful. Yang Mu looked at her carefully and praised her until Chen Ke laughed and scolded. After learning that Chen Ke had already eaten dinner, Yang Mu bought 2 drinks in the store next door and handed them to Chen Ke, and then Yang Mu walked into Halen University with her. Halen University covers a large area, and the greenery is also very complete. At night, the solar street lights on both sides of the road begin to shine, making the surrounding environment look very quiet and beautiful. Yang Mu and Chen Ke walked on a road. They admired the night scenery around them while walking forward and chatting about trivial matters. They laughed loudly. Except for not holding hands, they looked like an ordinary couple. The two slowly walked to the scenic lake. After a moment of silence, Yang Mu spoke. How did you do in the exam this time? Chen Ke looked up at Yang Mu, turned her head and looked at the road ahead, and said with a smile, "It's okay, maybe better than I expected." Yang Mu nodded in understanding and said what he wanted to ask most in his heart. Then, "What university are you going to apply for?" Listening to Yang Mu's words, Chen Ke walked to the chair next to the scenic lake and sat down, looking at the sparkling lake surface blown by the evening breeze, and spoke. "Maybe I'll go back to a place farther away, and see the vast world." Yang Mu also walked over and sat next to Chen Ke. When he heard her say that, he looked at her and lowered his head slightly. "Is that so?" The topic seemed to be interrupted suddenly, but Yang Mu immediately asked a most concerned question. "What do you think if we both get into the same university?" Chen Ke turned her head in surprise and saw Yang Mu's burning eyes with a hint of expression. She knew that the boy in front of her had never given up pursuing her. He cared about her and was even willing to punch and roar for her. This boy made her feel cared for again, and made her admire and respect the boy in front of her. However, she had never faced this question head-on. Rather than saying that she had never thought about it, perhaps more of it was that she didn't dare to think about it. The world is so big, and there are too many possibilities in life. A small separation may be a distance of light years away, and it will be difficult to meet again. Originally, she called Yang Mu out today in the hope of hearing Yang Mu's thoughts, but now, Yang Mu asked her first. Chen Ke didn't know how to answer for a moment. Her heart was like a mess. Facing the boy's scorching eyes, Chen Ke slowly lowered her head. Yang Mu naturally saw all of Chen Ke's expressions and movements. Although he couldn't guess what Chen Ke was thinking at the moment, Yang Mu still wanted to get to the bottom of it. Although he and Chen Ke now live in the same city, after the college entrance examination, if they go to their respective universities, they will be thousands of light years apart. If he wants to meet Chen Ke again, it may be a long wait, full of various unpredictable possibilities, and even the pain of the past may be repeated. Yang Mu didn't want this. At the moment of his rebirth, he didn't want history to repeat itself. So Yang Mu wanted to stay by Chen Ke's side. The two sat in silence on the chair for a long time, and finally Chen Ke finally spoke. "I will choose a university in the capital star first. What about you?" Looking at Chen Ke, who was speaking her inner thoughts to him, Yang Mu finally heard an answer from Chen Ke that was different from the answer in his previous life. In his previous life, Chen Ke chose Huanghayan University of Economics and Trade in Qingyang Star of Xintang Star Domain, but now Chen Ke chose the capital star of Yanhuang Star Domain. It was as if a big stone had fallen from his heart. At least he had changed something from now on. Yang Mu immediately followed and said, "Then I will go there to study too." Chen Ke looked at Yang Mu, and finally did not speak, but smiled slightly, which was considered as a tacit agreement. Yang Mu also smiled, and the two smiled at each other, as if they had agreed on all this. After that, the two walked around Halen University, and finally Yang Mu sent Chen Kai back home. During this period, Chen Kai did not go to the market to work, on the one hand, to study and concentrate on the college entrance examination, and also to prevent being harassed by those gangsters again. Brother Wei also found some connections and dealt with the things in the underworld, which did not pose any threat to his grain and oil store. After that, Yang Mu returned home. After the college entrance examination, Yang Mu could finally spend his own time freely. However, when he was sitting in the living room watching TV, Yang Mu always felt that Yang Ma and Uncle Lei looked at him differently. However, when Yang Mu asked them, they just smiled and didn't say anything, which made Yang Mu confused. In the evening, Yang Mu chatted with Chen Kai for a while lying on the bed, and also chatted with his new friend Su Yuanming for a while. Speaking of Su Yuanming, Yang Mu didn't like chatting with this guy who was so enthusiastic about him. Since he rushed around in the melee of the real mecha last time, the topic about himself in the game forum has become popular, because for a long time, he has never seen such a hearty battle scene like Yang Mu. Some crazy gamers even searched for information about Annihilation manually, but they have not succeeded so far. As for Yang Mu's two videos, they once became the content of analysis of many video moderators, causing a small stir on the internet. After Yang Mu and Su Yuanming talked for a few days, he knew that this person was a rich boy and a mecha player who loved this game. However, Yang Mu couldn't stand his enthusiasm. He kept asking him about the operation methods and moves of various mechas in the game. At first, Yang Mu admired his humble and eager to learn attitude and told him some things. But later, Yang Mu realized that it was not good for him to say so many things, so he changed the topic and stopped talking about mechas. Su Yuanming may have realized this, so this guy also changed the topic and talked to Yang Mu about other things, astronomy and geography, ancient and modern China and foreign countries, whatever he caught. Yang Mu himself didn't know how he knew all these things, and his action seemed to be that he only had Yang Mu as a friend. A few days later, the college entrance examination results came out. The total score of 600 points, Yang Mu scored just over 500, Chen Kai scored 537, and Jiao Hao scored less, more than 460. Chen Kai finally applied to Kaianham University in the capital star and was successfully admitted, but Yang Mu's score was a bit embarrassing, on the verge of being admitted or not, which gave Yang Mu a headache for a while. When he was thinking about what to do, Yang Mu suddenly received a call. A call from Yan Shenfu. Chapter 52 Promise. Sitting at the desk, Yang Mu opened the app and answered the call. Hearing the somewhat old voice coming from the phone, the expression on Yang Mu's face was already a little helpless. Haha, young man, the college entrance examination results are out, right? At this time, Yan Shenfu's laughter came from the other end of the phone. Yang Mu sighed. He didn't have any special feelings for this kind old man who always pestered him, but he still said respectfully. Yes, I wonder what the old man wants to call me about. Yang Mu's tone was slightly impatient, but Yan Shenfu did not show any unhappiness. Instead, he said slowly, Boy, I know you didn't do well in the exam this time, but my original proposal is still valid. Do you want to agree? Hearing the other party's words of temptation, Yang Mu really didn't know how to answer. This was the fourth time Yang Mu heard Yan Shenfu say this to him, asking him to go to the Kunlun Academy he recommended. Yang Mu admitted that it was an extremely extraordinary military academy, but did he want to take this path again? Yang Mu sighed deeply and said in a puzzled tone, Old man, what do you see in me? Why do you have to force a high school student like me to go to Kunlun College? This is a question that Yang Mu has always had. He just said something that shouldn't be said in the wrong place, and then he asked him for help again, which aroused his great interest. He threw out all kinds of temptations, and it was the kind of fight to the death. If it weren't for the fact that the other party was a 60-year-old man with a special identity, Yang Mu really thought that the other party was a child trafficker. At this time, sitting in a room of an elegant and unique tea house, Yan Shenfu was sitting on the windowsill, looking at the scenery outside the window with a kind smile on his face. Hearing Yang Mu ask himself this, Yan Shenfu's smile became even thicker. This question is actually very confusing to everyone except himself. A few days ago, his son even called him on an interstellar phone and asked why he gave away this recommendation quota. Yan Shenfu immediately reprimanded his son, but did not give any explanation. Others may not understand, but Yan Shenfu knew that he had dug up a piece of unpolished jade in this remote star field. A piece of material that can be a beautiful jade with a little carving. Although some people think that Yang Mu's performance is nothing special, and he can't show anything special. But Yan Shenfu doesn't think so. Yan Shenfu even feels that he has seen something behind this seemingly ordinary student. In Yang Mu, there is always a sense of maturity that does not match his age. At the same time, this child is also a very patriotic child. Moreover, he has seen his grades. Engineering machinery, basic physics and other science and engineering subjects are almost full marks, which means that this child still has some ability in this area. Although Yang Mu's ability has not yet been highlighted, knowledge can be accumulated as long as it is cultivated in the future. And Yang Mu's sincere patriotism makes Yan Shenfu appreciate it even more. Young man, answer a question for me first, and I will naturally tell you why. Yan Shenfu was silent for a long time and threw out a bait. Yang Mu heard Yan Shenfu's question, sat on the chair, turned his eyes, and asked, "What's the question?" Yan Shenfu said it directly. "If the fate of the country is in front of you, and your family is being coerced by the enemy, will you choose to compromise or fight back? What choice will you make?" Yan Shenfu's words made Yang Mu alert. Why would the other party ask him such a question at this time? Is he testing him? Yang Mu didn't sneer at him, but just felt that this approach was a bit too naive. However, after thinking it over again and again, Yang Mu still spoke from the heart and said the most real thoughts in his heart. "If it were me, I would pretend to surrender and then rescue my family, and then shoot the person who threatened my family." Such words came out of Yang Mu's mouth, with a hint of blood, but it also made Yan Shenfu a little dissatisfied, and the expression on his face changed slightly. "But if the country is gone, can you save your family temporarily, but can you save them forever?" The next moment, another word from Yang Mu came out from Yan Shenfu's communicator, which instantly calmed Yan Shenfu's slightly frowned brows. "Ha ha, not bad, you are worthy of the boy I have chosen." The voice from the communicator was Yan Shenfu's unbridled laughter, and he was very satisfied with Yang Mu's answer. "Young man, I really want to give you this opportunity sincerely, why not try it? After all, your score is not easy for you to make any choice." Yan Shenfu's inner desire to make this boy a part of Kunlo College became stronger, and he said immediately. Yang Mu frowned. "Did you check my score? Not only that, I also know that you have an excellent father." Yan Shenfu's tone gradually became serious, and finally said in a stern voice. "Don't you want to inherit your father's legacy and become a hero like your father?" Yan Shenfu's words hit Yang Mu's heart hard, making Yang Mu excited. "Yes, didn't I think so back then? I want to walk on my father's path again, inherit my father's wishes, protect my family, and protect my beautiful home. And now, am I going to give up this dream? 20 years later, when the Zerg are approaching in large numbers, can I really abandon it?" A storm is brewing in Yang Mu's heart. I'll think about it, okay." Yang Mu's heart was finally shaken by Yan Shenfu's words. The Kunlo College is in the capital Xingchang City, just like Kaianhan University. I can continue to protect Chenkei and continue my own business. If I want to have no regrets in this life, why not let go of my hands and make greater achievements than in my previous life, instead of driving a mecha to make a desperate charge at the end? I'll give you 2 hours. I'll leave Aquamarine in 2 hours. Yang Mu, this is your last chance. Yan Shenfu's voice came again. Young man, seizing opportunities is also a reflection of one's ability. Yan Shenfu's words hit Yang Mu's heart. Yang Mu seemed to be suddenly awakened, and then somehow, he agreed to the other party. "Okay, I agree, okay, that's it. The old man will take care of the formalities. I'll notify you when there's anything." As soon as Yang Mu finished speaking, Yan Shenfu's surprised voice came from the other side. He said happily, and then hung up the phone decisively. After the phone was hung up, Yang Mu was still a little dazed sitting in the chair. He couldn't believe that he had decided everything about his future so quickly. However, perhaps this was also a good choice. Will the fate of the next 20 years have a different experience? However, I don't know what the expressions of my mother and Uncle A will be when they hear this news. Yang Mu sighed deeply, stood up and stretched his muscles, clenched his fists and then loosened them, repeatedly several times, and looked at the scenery outside through the window. What will happen in the future? Chapter 53 Mother. On the day when he agreed to Yan Shenfu's promise, Yang Mu did not tell his mother directly, but only talked to Uncle A secretly. Uncle A was surprised and happy after hearing it, and obviously knew what kind of background Kunlun College had. The two planned to slowly reveal this news to Yang Ma, so that she could accept it imperceptibly, and not let her emotions change too much because of the sudden knowledge of this news. Because Yang Ma once said that she didn't want Yang Mu to join the army. But man proposes, God disposes. 3 days later, the family smart mailbox received a physical examination email from the PAJR recruitment department. Yang Ma, who knew the authenticity of this email at a glance, knew that her son had secretly applied for a military academy without telling anyone. That day, Yang Ma cooked the rice for the first time, and then she sat alone in the room, not talking to her family, but just wiping her tears. Yang Ma's actions naturally made Yang Mu realize that his mother knew all this, and she knew it very suddenly. Becoming a soldier has always been something that Yang Ma is most reluctant to touch, because 10 years ago, she lost her beloved in this way, and now, her son has to take this path again. Yang Ma is almost unwilling to accept this. Or in other words, she just doesn't want to see another old person send off a young person. The atmosphere at home has become a little dull in the past 2 days. Yang Mu and others don't know how to comfort Yang Ma. Lei Ming and Lei Hong are also restricted by Uncle Lei from going to their mother to act like a spoiled child, because this is a wound that will only scar but never heal. And now this wound has been torn open a little. It's another day's dinner, but the whole family ordered takeout, without the mother to cook. The 4 men in the family can't even tell the types of ingredients in the kitchen. At this time, Yang Mu and his 3 brothers are eating at the table. Uncle Lei has been persuading their mother in the room for a long time, but there is still no movement. Yang Mu knows that his mother is upset, so he also tries to take the initiative to communicate with her, but facing the fact of joining the army, his mother lowered her head and didn't speak, as if she has been avoiding this issue. After the last attempt to talk failed, Uncle Lei gave Yang Mu a look. Yang Mu could only sigh silently, leave the room, and return to his room upstairs in a depressed mood. Yang Mu knew that his choice was difficult for his mother to accept. She might think that she would go to a good university in the future and then find a good job, whether it was an engineer, scientist, company employee, or even a hard laborer. Then she would start a family and let her enjoy the joy of being a grandmother early. But from beginning to end, the mother might not have thought of letting her child take the path of the army, even though the current society is so peaceful and prosperous. But now, Yang Mu's choice has been made. Choosing a military academy means that Yang Mu can't return to his side after 3 years of military service like ordinary people. Military students from military academies will definitely be an indispensable force in the army in the future, which means that they may have to stay in the army for the rest of their lives. If they retire, there may be only 2 situations. One is disability and voluntary retirement. The other is dying on the battlefield and becoming a small wooden box and an exquisite medal. For boys, this kind of passionate thing is something to be proud of, and it can make them heroes admired by thousands of people. But for a mother, especially a mother who has suffered the loss of a loved one, this is the most unbearable imagination. Yang Mu sat on the chair in the room with a complicated expression, turned on the desk lamp, and the light shone on the desk in front of him. He stroked his father's medal in his hand, stared at a poster on the wall, and was lost in thought for a long time. Squeak! The sound of the door opening suddenly interrupted Yang Mu's thoughts. Yang Mu turned around and saw that it was his mother who pushed the door open. Yang Mu stood up immediately, looked at his mother with red eyes, but lowered his head and clenched the medal in his hand. Yang's mother did not speak, but just stood at the door and looked at Yang Mu silently. The two faced each other, both silent, and neither spoke. After a long time, Yang's mother seemed to have examined Yang Mu many times, and spoke very reluctantly. Yang Mu even heard the sigh that came out of his mother's mouth when she spoke. "Xiao Mu, have you made up your mind?" Nanguang Yaohe looked up, his red eyes looking at his son in front of him, and asked with a trembling voice. The tall, handsome child in front of him was as high-spirited and heroic as Yang Li was back then. He was also his baby and his pride. Yang Mu heard his mother's words and also raised his head. His eyes saw his mother, who looked a little haggard because of sadness, and a feeling of guilt surged in his heart. Biting his lips, Yang Mu let out a deep breath and nodded. "Yes, mother." Yang Mu's eyes gradually became firm. "I want to fulfill my father's last wish, become a soldier like him, and become someone who can make him extremely proud." Yang Mu's sonorous voice echoed in the room. But his last wish is to let you live well and happily." I hope you will become an excellent person in the future, have a happy family, and live a happy life." Yang's mother's eyes were a little sad. She didn't dare to look at Yang Mu, but just looked at the table next to her, as if she was recalling the past. Yang Mu looked at his mother, knowing that she didn't want him to repeat the past mistakes, but Yang Mu had already made his choice, and there would be no change. "Mom, you also said that my father wanted me to be an excellent person, so I should do my best. When I was young, didn't you always say that being an excellent soldier was something to be proud of? You have to believe me, I'm grown up, and there are some things that I will always decide," Yang Mu said firmly, looking at his mother. Yang Mu looked at his mother and said all his thoughts, but the mother in front of him gradually lowered her head. "But I can't lose you again, you are the only one left in my memories of Ali." Yang's mother raised her head and looked at Yang Mu, choking in her voice. Yang Mu felt a lump in his throat and couldn't speak. Yang's mother had already left 2 tears on her face, and her whole person was a little emotional. She reached out and lowered her head to wipe her tears, but she didn't speak anymore. The two stood there again, silent. After a while, or perhaps a long time, Yang's mother seemed to have stabilized a little. She looked up at Yang Mu, opened her mouth and panted, blinking her eyes constantly, blocking all the hot tears. "Mom doesn't object to you going," Yang's mother said, which surprised Yang Mu a little, but after saying this, Yang's mother's emotions collapsed again, and the expression on her face became very sad again, looking at Yang Mu with tears. "But, Mom has something to tell you, that is, since you have chosen this path, then you should make some achievements." Every word of Yang's mother hit Yang Mu's heart directly, and Yang Mu couldn't hold back his tears, standing there wiping his tears. "Mom, in his previous life, in order to escape from this family, he chose a military school without telling his family, and didn't tell her everything until the moment he went to school. At that time, he told her everything after he got on the spaceship at the spaceport, and didn't know the expression of his mother after seeing his choice. But now, Yang Mu finally knew that whether it was or not, his mother didn't object to him, but she just couldn't let him go, a mother's deep reluctance to let her child go. After saying this, Yang's mother burst into tears, walked up quickly and gave Yang Mu a hug. Yang Mu, with tears in his eyes, also hugged his mother tightly. A moment later, a large and 2 small figures walked in from the door. They also walked up silently and hugged Yang Mu. The 5 people hugged each other tightly. Although silent, Yang Mu's heart had undergone earth-shaking changes. On this day, Yang Mu's future had a foundation. With the greatest support from his family, Yang Mu also knew that in this world, the place he had tried hard to escape from, there was a family that loved him. Similarly, he would love them deeply, forever. A few days later, Lei Shangwu enrolled Yang Mu in a martial arts training class. In order to meet the minimum system requirements for enrollment, Yang Mu needed to exercise and improve his physical fitness in July and August, so that he could reach the first level physique, or even stronger. This summer vacation, Yang Mu began to live a 2.1-line life between the martial arts hall and home, and he continued to exercise himself every day. On a weekend night, Yang Mu took a shower and lay in bed. He had just called Chen Kai and agreed on some things, and then sent a message to Jia Hao. Jia Hao had recently gone to Dulin and had also been admitted to a university there. This time he went to see Dulin, and the next time he and Jia Hao met might have to wait until the new year. Yang Mu had suggested that Dulin return to Aquamarine Star, but Dulin refused because his family had settled down there and didn't want to travel anymore. Yang Mu could only agree. Putting down his watch, Yang Mu stood in front of the window, shook his head, and began to recall the sudden drawings in his mind. This was the study that Yang Mu started after the college entrance examination. He learned a little bit of the structure of the new drawings every day, and then memorized them by heart. It took Yang Mu 15 minutes to build a metroleg joint drawing in his mind, then he opened his eyes, stretched his muscles, and prepared to go to bed. Yang Mu's head had just rested on the pillow when a huge explosion suddenly came, instantly wiping out Yang Mu's sleepiness. Yang Mu suddenly stood up and looked out the window. At this moment, there was another explosion. The sky-high flames illuminated Yang Mu's window. Yang Mu tried to look over and found that the explosion point seemed to be in the direction of Halen Science and Technology Museum. Yang Mu stood up immediately, but before he put his feet into his slippers, another explosion was heard. 3 consecutive and sudden explosions caused the Halen City, which was just lit up, to fall into panic. Chapter 54, The Bloody Skeleton Appears. When seeing the explosion, Yang Mu's heart skipped a beat, because the source of the last explosion was in the direction of the market, and Chen Kai didn't know if she was there now. A few days ago, Chen Kai returned to work as a porter there, because the salary was more generous than other jobs, and Chen Kai also wanted to save more tuition fees during the summer vacation. Because she worked there again despite Yang Mu's opposition, although Yang Mu had said that he could help her solve the previous problems in this regard, the stubborn Chen Kai resolutely refused. Yang Mu didn't always struggle with this issue, so he agreed to Chen Kai's choice. When he called Chen Kai just now, he didn't ask where she was now. Then Chen Kai might appear there. In such a dangerous situation, Yang Mu couldn't sit idly by. Yang Mu immediately made a call. The phone rang for a long time, but no one answered it. Yang Mu was anxious and ran downstairs in a hurry. At this time, Yang Ma also woke up. After comforting Lei Ming and Lei Hong in their rooms, she came out and happened to meet Yang Mu, who had just left the room at the stairs. Yang Ma and Yang Mu looked at each other. Both of them looked serious and very nervous. Xiao Mu, what's going on now? Yang Ma came over and asked Yang Mu. Yang Mu waved his hand, went downstairs and walked to the door of his house, without changing his pajamas, and quickly put on his shoes. Xiao Mu? Where are you going? Yang Ma asked puzzled. Yang Mu put on his shoes, opened the door, turned his head and said to his mother who looked nervous, I'm going to Uncle A's place to have a look. Uncle A was working overtime in his store today, and it was already 10 o'clock and he hadn't come back yet. Yang Mu just used this excuse to evade Yang Ma. However, Yang Mu had already observed that there was no explosion in the direction of Uncle A's store, and it was quite far from the 3 explosion points, so it should be safe for the time being. Besides, Uncle A and his gang are all veterans, and they should be calm when encountering such a situation. No, we don't know what's going on outside now, you can't go out. Yang Ma immediately stepped forward to stop Yang Mu's actions. But Yang Mu had already walked out of the door first, carrying a bicycle in his hand and running out. Xiao Mu, come back soon. Yang's mother's anxious voice came from outside the courtyard gate, but Yang Mu left the community without looking back. Mom, go back and take care of Lei Ming and Lei Hong. I will be careful and safe. Yang's mother's anxious shout still came from behind, but Yang Mu had already ridden his bicycle out of the community, turned the front of the bicycle, and pedaled madly towards the direction of the market. Chen Kai has not returned his call until now. The smartwatch has been calling Chen Kai, but there has been no response. Yang Mu was extremely anxious. While pedaling hard, he kept praying in his heart that nothing would happen to Chen Kai. Kabir, don't go there anymore. Looking at the flames rising from the direction of the market in the distance, Yang Mu gritted his teeth, the veins on his face bulged, and his expression became a little ferocious. No, this bicycle is not fast enough, I have to go faster. I must rush there as fast as possible. I must not let Kanya fall into danger. Yang Mu quickly found a quiet and spacious alley, threw his bicycle in it, his eyes flashed. And he lowered his head to take out the necklace on his neck. Halen Science and Technology Museum. Jerry, the sales director of the Blue Giant mech, was crouching in a corner with his head in his hands at the moment, lowering his head to secretly glance at the scene not far away in front of him. A body was lying 1 meter away from him, and blood was still flowing out of the wound on his chest. This was a security guard of the Halen Science and Technology Museum, who had just died at the hands of a group of bandits who fell from the sky not far away. That's right, this group of bandits really fell from the sky, blew up the roof of the Science and Technology Museum, rushed in from the top of the Halen Science and Technology Museum, and landed in the center of the Science and Technology Museum, then quickly killed the security guards in the museum, closed the entire Science and Technology Museum, and kidnapped everyone present. Today is a weekend, and there is an endless stream of people coming to visit the mech, but I didn't expect these guys to appear at this time. They drove several old mechas to control the situation in the field, and then a super large drone landed in the field and put down a large iron box. It's funny that the other party hijacked this Science and Technology Museum that was displaying various advanced mechas in the world with only 4 or 5 old mechas. And from just now to now, they have been here for almost half an hour. They drove all the people aside and then began to load and unload in the field. They had a clear division of labor. Some people maintained order, and some people took apart the iron box brought down by the drone. Just one glance, Jerry knew what they wanted to do. They were taking out all kinds of ammunition from the iron box, and then armed all these advanced mechas. Even the ammunition equipped was very compatible with the weapons on the advanced mechas. They actually wanted to control these advanced mechas. Jerry was shocked and naturally understood what the other party wanted to do. These sudden bandits were ambitious and wanted to use the dozens of super mechas in the field to do something even more terrible. These people don't look like a military exercise at all. Their vicious attitude and the fact that they kill at will all show that they are a gang of outright gangsters. It seems that I am really in danger today. If I had known earlier, I should have left this damn place earlier. Thinking of this, Jerry felt a little sad. The 2 months on the Aquamarine were the 2 most unpleasant months he had spent in these years. First, the orders for nearly 3,000 blue giant mechas that had been sold were basically returned in the end. In the end, only about 200 were sold. Then, news came from various star regions of PAJR that the sales of blue giant mechas had suffered an unprecedented Waterloo, and all sales orders were cancelled by more than 70%. It was precisely because of this that he had stayed here and kept dealing with local weapons dealers and the military. But even so, he was unable to open up the market here, let alone realize his dream of sales here. Originally, I was going to leave here in disgrace in 2 days, but now, the sudden appearance of these bandits in different clothes, masked and armed with guns made everything uncertain. The body in front of me might be the ending I am waiting for. I am now their hostage and may be held hostage at any time. Or even killed by guns. The sound of sirens can be vaguely heard outside the Science and Technology Museum, but now the entire Science and Technology Museum is under the tight control of these masked bandits. I don't know what will happen next. Just when Jerry was thinking frantically about what to do, one of the bandits in the field suddenly hammered a mecha next to him with the butt of his gun in a rage and roared. How could this happen? What to do? This is a man's voice, deep and old, and Jerry heard it all. At this moment, the other party may be too excited, and the scarf covering his face fell off, revealing a face with a skull tattoo under the light of the museum. Although the other party immediately pulled up, Jerry saw it clearly, and at this moment, goosebumps crawled all over his body. Bloodskull Brotherhood. Although Jerry had never seen the Bloodskull Brotherhood, when he arrived at the Aquamarine, Jerry knew that there was a star pirate group here, which was very cruel. The face with the skull tattoo on the other party made Jerry recognize him as the Bloodskull Brotherhood almost instantly. Jerry knelt on the ground with a dazed look in his eyes, his head buzzing. He didn't expect that the notorious star pirate group would appear in Aquamarine City so swaggeringly. This is the administrative center of Aquamarine. While Jerry was in a trance, Kim, who had just been furious, calmed down, and then gave a few orders to the gangsters next to him, and then they drove out in several old mechas. There was a burst of gunfire and explosions outside, and then it returned to calm. Kim called on the remaining gangsters to continue to load energy and ammunition into the armor in the field. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 55 Situation. Zheng Hai, the chief administrative officer of the new star domain, was standing in the command hall of the administrative office with his eyebrows furrowed and a serious expression. The huge hall was crowded with people at the moment, and countless staff members were working hard. Zheng Hai, standing on the command platform, was quickly analyzing the current situation in his mind. The 3 explosions at 10 o'clock occurred in the Halen City Science and Technology Museum, the Halen University Equipment Laboratory, and the largest market in Halen City. Special police forces equipped with police mechas have been sent to support and deal with the 3 places. However, the news now comes back that only the market is in a battle with the opponent, and the other 2 are now controlled by the mob. Because the opponent kidnapped hostages and blocked the venue, half an hour has passed, and the police cannot risk forcibly attacking. As the administrative star of the new star domain, Halen Star naturally attaches great importance to the defense of the administrative star. Originally, the planet has very strong defense forces inside and outside, but just 3 days ago, it was learned that the headquarters of the Bloodskull Brotherhood seemed to be on an abandoned resource star 1.3 light-years away from here. And all the signs afterwards indicated that the enemy's base camp was there. So the highest military commander of the local area ordered the entire Aquamarine Star interstellar fleet to go out, and drew 2 elite mecha divisions of the Aquamarine Star Army to participate in the battle, including the 1st Mecha Regiment originally stationed here. So now there is only one Class B Mecha Regiment in the suburbs of Aquamarine City, and it will take at least half an hour to get there. When the troops are in short supply, such a thing happened again. According to statistics, nearly 1,000 people were hijacked, and 2 key institutions were hijacked. I don't know what's going on now. Before a second passes, there will be more unknown factors. If a more tragic incident occurs, I will wait to be dismissed and go back to be a farmer. However, due to the restrictions of the military and political system, in order to prevent regional separatism, I, the administrative officer, the highest official in the new star domain, can't mobilize more troops outside of Aquamarine City. I have just spoken to the 2nd military commander, and the other party said that for the safety of various places, it is temporarily unable to provide elite troops to support, and can only support a small number of fighters to come, and let Shanghai find a way for the rest. But, where's the solution? Such vicious incidents have not happened on Aquamarine for decades. Administrator, please take a look at this. Suddenly, a police advisor slid a projection screen in front of Shanghai, and a letter popped up on it, with bright red fonts. Damn it! After quickly and carefully reading the letter, Shanghai's expression instantly became extremely ferocious. He slapped the console hard and yelled. In this email just now, the Bloodskull Brotherhood stated that all this was their masterpiece. The Bloodskull Brotherhood. This group of guys who should have been blasted into interstellar dust actually landed on Aquamarine quietly and made such a big noise in an instant. And now the army that was originally responsible for annihilating these star pirates is now 1.3 light years away from here, and the star pirates to be annihilated have appeared at their doorstep. This is a strategy to lure the tiger away from the mountain. Immediately contact the Aquamarine Star Fleet to return. Mobilize the security forces of the cities surrounding Aquamarine City to gather in Aquamarine City, sound the first strike battle alarm, open all the police weapons depots, and send out all the troops I can command. This is no longer a simple attack. The Bloodskull Brotherhood has a force comparable to the elite Mecha Regiment. Now it has raided Aquamarine City. If it is not handled properly, the core area of the new star domain will suffer unprecedented damage. Shanghai almost roared and gave the order. Everyone in the field turned their heads to look at Shanghai. They had never seen the scene of the gentle administrator roaring out of control. Shanghai calmed down after taking a few deep breaths and called the military supervisors at all levels again. 10 minutes later, the entire Aquamarine Star was in action. At that moment, countless orders were issued to all parts of the world. In Halen City, traffic, communication and power control were implemented in a small area around the 3 explosion points. At the same time, many holes were opened under the trees in the various hidden places in the mountains around Halen City. Suspended ground attack aircraft took off one after another, and hundreds of combat mechas began to enter the state of preparation. The advanced mecha troops had already rushed to the explosion site. Hearing the roar in the sky, the puzzled residents of Halen City looked up at the sky and listened to the first-level alert instructions on the radio, knowing that something big was going to happen that night. The big market. Ho ha ho ha, all of you go to hell. All of you go to hell, you bunch of cops. All of you go to be buried with my dead brother. Ho ha ho ha, on a pile of ruins in the market, in a bright and beautiful mecha, a thin man was yelling wildly with his eyes wide open, controlling the mecha to fire at a distance, and next to him, 2 mechas with equally bright shapes were frantically resisting the firepower from heavy police mechas and forward exoskeleton armor. This man was the second in command of the destroyed Green Ghost Gang, Dongpeng. In the last crackdown on the Green Ghost Gang, Dongpeng had luckily escaped the pursuit of the police and the military, but at the same time, Dongpeng also knew that his beloved brother Dongkun was dead. Died under the gun of the military of the Blue Star. Dongpeng knew why his brother died, and he could have lived in his place. So Dongpeng was not going to leave here. He quietly lurked, pulled 2 loyal gang members, and kept looking for an opportunity. Finally, they found the opportunity. A few days ago, the 3 of them raided a rich man's home. In that villa that had been uninhabited for a long time, Dongpeng found 3 entertainment mechas. But coincidentally, the owner of that house was probably not a good person either. He didn't know where he got the thermal weapons that could be loaded on the entertainment mechas. So these entertainment mechas instantly became killing weapons. But Dongpeng, who got a lot of help, was not reckless. Instead, he planned carefully. First, he wanted to destroy the Bloodskull Brotherhood. It was them who directly led to his brother's death. It was them who made him fall into a irreversible situation. Then, he went back to find trouble with the cops and cleaned them up one by one. And the action he planned tonight was surprisingly smooth, and he directly took down the other party's nest in this market. Dongpeng's goal was achieved. The ugly guys of the blood skeletons all died in his hands, and he controlled the mech's arms to slowly crush them to death one by one, with blood splattering everywhere. At this time, the gang of cops also arrived, and they also brought super heavy equipment. Although he could no longer plan slowly, since they came to his door, he would let them see it. What is anger? Dongpeng roared and poured bullets from the high-energy rifle in the mech's hand. The two sides fired a barrage of bullets within a range of 100 meters, which was extremely fierce. Just when the police and Dongpeng and others were fighting, a dark mecha was slowly approaching from the south of the market. Most of the back armor of Annihilation has been repaired, but the materials for the main power engine are hard to find, and it has not been repaired yet, so Yang Mu can only operate it to walk forward, but it is much faster than pedaling a bicycle. When approaching from a distance, Yang Mu was cautious and was not discovered by anyone. He kept searching for Chen Kai while moving forward, especially in an apartment not far from the battle site. That was where Chen Kai rented and he had celebrated his birthday with her there. But as he slowly approached to within 400 meters of the battle site, although he could hide his figure with the help of the building, everyone who passed by him would scream and run away when they found his 7-meter-high mecha. It was because of this that Yang Mu was exposed to the police's sight. An unknown mecha was found at the 4 o'clock direction to the right rear. The second team will go there immediately. The police captain ordered in a police mecha, and 3 police mechas immediately left the main battlefield and ran towards that side. The departure of the 3 mechas seemed to have slightly slowed down the police's firepower, which gave Dongpeng and his 3 companions an opportunity. They threw a huge reinforced concrete block at the police position, and then howled as they controlled the mechas to flee to the other side. At this moment, Yang Mu's watch buzzed, and Yang Mu immediately connected it to the communicator inside the mecha. "Hello, Yang Mu. Yang Mu. Where are you?" Chen Kai's somewhat panicked voice came from the other end of the phone, and she seemed very helpless. Kair, where are you now? Tell me quickly." Yang Mu's eyes suddenly turned red, and he yelled in the cockpit. "I'm on the roof of the original apartment. I shouldn't have come here." After listening, Yang Mu turned his head and looked over there, only to see a girl in a white dress standing on the rooftop, standing in the most conspicuous place. Yang Mu's mind suddenly buzzed. The green line penetrated into Yang Mu's eyes, and Yang Mu immediately determined where the other party wanted to go. They actually rushed straight to Chen Kai's apartment, where the mecha was escaping. "Yang Mu, where are you? I'm so scared." Chen Kai's voice on the other end of the phone was trembling more than before. Kair, don't be afraid, I'll call my friends now. There's absolutely no danger." Yang Mu comforted Chen Kai loudly, and his hands moved, manipulating the mecha, turning the auxiliary thrusters of the mecha's limbs to the maximum power, walked out of the hiding place, and rushed towards the direction of the distant apartment building. Found the target. Fire. Almost when Yang Mu came out of the darkness, the searchlight of the second police mecha team instantly saw an unknown black mecha running out from the side of a building. This mecha has a sharp shape and clear lines, but at this moment it is running towards the explosion in the market. The team leader immediately shouted the order to fire in the channel. 14.5 caliber heavy machine gun bullets poured down, hitting the wall of the house behind Yang Mu, and gradually began to block Yang Mu's steps. Yang Mu had no time to care about these things, but drove the mecha more frantically to the apartment 3 or 400 meters away from him. Kair was there, and she was about to face danger. Suddenly, a missile was fired from behind Yang Mu, and the radar system of the mecha immediately issued a warning. At the same time, Yang Mu saw that there were residents in the building next to him. If the mecha evaded, the missile would directly rush into the building. Who fired the missile? Don't you know there are residents in the residential building? The roar of the police captain suddenly sounded in the public channel. A member of the second team immediately put away the weapon rack that had been fired behind the police mecha. Yang Mu could only grit his teeth, forcibly stop the fuselage, manipulate the mecha to twist its body, and at the same time stretch out the mecha's arms. The shiny black paint on the front armor looked very strange under the light of the missile tail flame. The missile whizzed towards him. Yang Mu stared at the missile. When the missile entered the attack range, He immediately manipulated the mecha to pull out the titanium alloy long knife in his right hand and slashed it upwards quickly. The blade came into contact with a missile and directly split the missile shell. The missile exploded immediately, stirring up a burst of smoke and dust, covering the figure of Annihilation. The police mecha team hurried forward, and the two high-intensity searchlights on the shoulders of the mecha shone on the position of Annihilation. The smoke and dust gradually dissipated, gradually revealing an intact mecha body. Chapter 56 Rescue. Chen Kai had never been so desperate as she was now. Today was a moonlit night. She had just received her salary yesterday. For the first time, she made up her mind to buy a dress worth several hundred yuan in the store. Then she went back to her residence happily to try it on, preparing to go out for a picnic with Yang Mu tomorrow. This was what they had just agreed to do on the phone, to go to Looming Mountain not far away for a picnic. But just an hour later, everything here changed. First, the earth shook due to the explosion, and then there were noises and screams coming from inside and outside the apartment. When she hurriedly looked out, 100 meters away from her, there was already a sea of fire, and 3 10-meter-high mechas suddenly appeared there. She hurried downstairs, ready to leave, but when she arrived at the door, she found that a big tree not far from the door had fallen and blocked the door of her apartment. Anti-theft windows were installed on the 4th floor and below, and she knocked on the doors of the residence on the 1st floor, but no one opened the door. The door of the apartment became the only escape route, but it was blocked, and she was trapped in the building. She had no choice but to return to the house, but found that the communicator was full of missed calls from Yang Mu. She tried to call back, but couldn't get through. Finally, she found that there was no signal here. Chen Kai hurried to the rooftop. There was still some weak signal on the roof of the 20-meter-high building. At this time, Chen Kai was wearing the white dress she had just bought. She called again, and this time, Yang Mu finally answered. When she heard the other party's voice, Chen Kai couldn't control her tears and cried. Yang Mu! Yang Mu! Where are you? At this anxious moment, the only person Chen Kai could hear was Yang Mu. At this moment, Chen Kai saw that the 3 mechas that were destroying everywhere were coming towards her, and in order to get out of this crowded and chaotic market, they did not hesitate to use violence to clear the way and kept shooting at any blocking objects or people in front of them. Chen Kai was at a loss. She couldn't get out now, and the metro was coming here again. Could it be, would she die here today? Not far from the apartment building where Chen Kai was, the smoke and dust after the missile explosion slowly dissipated, and Yang Mu's metro reappeared, and the police metro team was stunned in its intact state. Quick! Accurate! Prepare to fire! The captain hurriedly issued an order, and the 3 mechas raised their guns again and aimed at Yang Mu's mecha. Stop! This mecha is not in the same group as those people. Just as the captain of the second team hurriedly issued an order, the captain spoke in time to stop everything. The mecha team did not shoot, but just nervously guarded against the black mecha driven by Yang Mu. In their opinion, the mecha in front of them was far more terrifying than the 3 mechas just now, because its lines were too beautiful and sharp, and the 2 nearly 5-meter-long swords on both sides of the mecha were shining with cold light, which made people look creepy. But the mecha in front of him didn't seem to have any hot weapons. Just when all the police were very confused, the mecha in front of him started to move, turned around, and continued to run in the original direction. Follow him immediately. The helicopter searchlight is shining. He seems to want to stop the 3 mechas. Everyone follow. The captain's words continued to come from the channel, and the 3 police mechas hurriedly moved. Yang Mu was anxious at this moment. Due to this delay, he could already see that the distance between the 3 mechas and Kair was only a few dozen meters, and he was still more than 100 meters away. Come on, you must catch up, Kair, you must be safe too. Yang Mu frantically controlled the mecha and rushed in that direction. Boss, look at that roof, there are a lot of people standing on it, a younger brother next to Dongpeng said in the mecha channel. Dongpeng looked up and found that there were more than a dozen people standing on the roof not far in front of him. It seemed that they were ready to die. Dongpeng, whose mind was already somewhat twisted, laughed coldly and said in a grim tone, then crush them all, kill them all, and whoever stands in my way will die. After that, the 3 people laughed and operated the mechas one after another. Dongpeng raised the muzzle of his gun and fired a burst of bullets at the rooftop. A string of bullets hit the rooftop, and an unlucky guy was immediately hit, and the whole person was broken into 2 pieces. The others were scared by the bloody situation and screamed. They ran around. Chen Kai also hurriedly hid in a corner, closed his eyes and listened to the mechas approaching him. Although the 3 mechas were not as tall as this building, Chen Kai still couldn't stop trembling. Yang Mumu, why haven't you come yet, the friend you mentioned? I'm so scared. Chen Kai trembled and curled up in the corner, tears in her eyes couldn't stop flowing out. The 3 mechas have arrived under the apartment. In order to pass through here, the huge fuselage began to destroy crazily. They tried to climb up the building and kept firing, splashing dust. Chen Kai also felt a vibration of the building. She opened her terrified eyes and looked forward. Suddenly, a mechanical hand popped out from downstairs and grabbed the edge of the rooftop. Then a mecha head poked out. The people on the rooftop screamed again. Chen Kai closed her eyes in even more fear and curled up her body. Brothers, crush them. Dong Peng saw that his brothers weren't already afraid to go up. He shouted while blocking the chasing police from below. The mecha responded, stretched out its mecha arm to grab a person's ankle, and dragged him down directly. Chen Kai could even hear the other party's screams when he fell from the building. Chen Kai was really desperate. This situation was already a desperate situation. He had no way to retreat and no way to avoid it. Goodbye, Yang Mu, goodbye, everything. Chen Kai closed her eyes in sadness and despair, waiting for the coming death. But in the next moment, the situation reversed. There was a sharp sound of cutting metal from the arrogant mecha, and then there was no more movement. At the same time, fierce gunfire began to be heard from downstairs, as if resisting something. The dazzling searchlight suddenly shone on the rooftop. Chen Kai, who had his eyes closed, naturally felt something was wrong. He stretched out his hand to block the light in front of him and slowly opened his eyes. 5 meters in front of the corner where he was hiding, on the mecha that had just climbed up, there was another mecha standing on its shoulder, a mecha that was completely black. Although it was completely black, it was illuminated by the searchlight of the suspended helicopter. It was like a holy angel descended from heaven, saving all living beings. Chapter 57, The Waves Have Not Been Settled. Chen Kai stared at the scene in front of her with wide eyes, looking at the huge black body, and the tears on her face were too shocking to wipe away. At this time, the communicator in Chen Kai's hand rang. Chen Kai looked down woodenly and found that it was Yang Mu's call. Hello. Chen Kai clicked the communicator in her hand to answer the call. Chen Kai answered the call almost with tears in her voice. Kair, are you okay? Yang Mu, who was controlling the mecha, naturally saw Chen Kai's situation clearly in the cockpit. She was helpless like a kitten, curled up in a corner of the rooftop, and the terrified expression on her face had not yet dissipated. Perhaps in the last moment, she had just experienced unprecedented despair. Yang Mu wanted to get out of the mecha immediately, and then rush forward to hug her tightly and give her a warm and safe hug. But Yang Mu couldn't, because the current environment did not allow him to do so. So he could only stand in front of his beloved and make a phone call. Yang Mumu, where are you? Chen Kai asked in a crying voice, which made Yang Mu's heart tremble, but he still said calmly. I can't come in now, you, wait for me, don't be afraid. Yang Mu's throat moved and he said. As Yang Mu spoke, he turned his head and looked at the ground under his feet. There, only one mecha was left to resist. Only the mecha driven by Dong Peng was left firing between the 2 buildings to block the attack of the police mecha. Yang Mu pulled out a long knife inserted in the body of the mecha under his feet, sparking a burst of sparks, and then manipulated the mecha to stand up. Kair, you go with that mecha, my friend will take you away, Yang Mu said, while manipulating the mecha to stretch out his arm, motioning Chen Kai to move forward. Chen Kai was stunned for a moment, raised her head, looked at the huge mecha in front of her, and slowly stood up. Her white skirt fluttered in the wind. Chen Kai took a step and slowly walked towards the arm of the mecha. Chen Kai climbed onto the black right arm of the mecha, and the mechanical fingers as thick as his arm gently held Chen Kai, and then Yang Mu controlled the mecha to jump down to the apartment building. Chen Kai closed her eyes tightly, and felt her body tremble. When she opened her eyes again, she had been put down and stood on the road outside the apartment. Chen Kai looked up at the tall mecha in front of her. The driver in the black mecha in front of her had never communicated with her, but he was able to immediately say what Yang Mu said. It turned out that Yang Mu had a powerful friend. When Chen Kai was still a little dazed, Annihilation suddenly blocked Chen Kai standing on the ground, and then saw a burst of sparks on the mecha, making a burst of sound, which actually helped Chen Kai block a string of bullets. Chen Kai hurriedly squatted down with his head in his hands. Yang Mu controlled Annihilation to help block this attack, and then raised his head and looked at the muzzle of the mecha not far in front of him, facing him. Ha ha ha, go to hell, you damned bugs. Trash. Waste. Dongpeng was completely bloodthirsty. He snatched the gun of his dead teammate and fired wildly at Yang Mu's mech. Yang Mu immediately moved, controlling the mech and throwing the long knife in his right hand directly at the opponent. The 5-meter-long knife drew a beautiful arc in the air and deeply inserted into the right-hand joint of the mech. At this time, Yang Mu's mech also moved forward under the rain of bullets. At the same time, he controlled the mech and pulled out another long knife from his waist with his left hand. He ran and slashed at the mech in front of him within the attack range, directly removing the left arm of the mech. At the same time, the annihilated mech grabbed the handle of the long knife that had just been inserted into the opponent's right shoulder with his right hand, pried it upward with a little force, and directly removed the opponent's right arm. Dongpeng in the cockpit was yelling unwillingly at this moment, but Yang Mu's actions did not stop. Instead, he moved closer to the mecha with broken arms. The two long knives pointed upwards and fiercely stabbed into the chest of the other mecha, piercing the cockpit inside. The next moment, the long knives wrapped in broken metal and mace wires gradually flowed with traces of blood. All the police mechas present witnessed all this, and were also frightened by the simple and fierce actions of the mecha of unknown origin in front of them, because they had never seen such a brutal scene anywhere. It only used cold weapons to scrap a mecha within 5 moves. How terrifying will the person who controls this mysterious mecha be? A group of police mechas put down their guns and stared at the scene in front of them. But Yang Mu didn't have time to care about this. He pulled out the two long knives from the chest of the other mecha again. Yang Mu turned the fuselage and saw Chen Kai still standing there, and immediately controlled the mecha to walk over. Yang Mu silently extended his hand and motioned Chen Kai to sit in the mecha again. Chen Kai followed suit, and then slowly walked out of the market under the mecha controlled by Yang Mu. After sending Chen Kai to the outskirts of the market, Yang Mu motioned to Chen Kai, and then prepared to find a place to put away the mecha and meet Chen Kai. At this moment, gunshots suddenly rang out again in the market where the battle had just been settled. Yang Mu hurriedly turned his head to look. 3 or 4 unknown mechas that suddenly appeared opened fire fiercely in the north of the market, catching the police who were cleaning up the scene off guard. If Jerry was present at this time, he would definitely be able to see that these 4 mechas were the ones sent from the Science and Technology Museum. He didn't expect them to return here now. Yang Mu naturally couldn't stand by and watch, so he manipulated the mecha to make a gesture to Chen Kai, and then manipulated the mecha to rejoin the battle in the distance. Chen Kai stood there, watching the back of the dark mecha going away, without blinking, and was actually a little dazed. In the Halen Science and Technology Museum, Cam had just urged the Brotherhood members present to complete the final equipment inspection of the mechas in the exhibition hall, then took out the communicator and dialed a number. "Cam, how is it going?" A hoarse voice came from the communicator, vaguely recognizable as France's voice, but it seemed a little anxious. Cam also looked unhappy, and said in a serious tone, "Boss, this is almost done, but our base in the big market has been taken down. I sent Ghost Wolf and the others back to check the explosion before." The person on the other side was obviously silent for a moment, and continued, "Don't worry about that, just take the next step as soon as you are ready." After listening, Cam understood the difficulty of this mission, and nodded seriously. "Okay, I'm ready to go now." "Well, as soon as possible. We need to make a quick decision," France said calmly, and then hung up the phone. In the equipment laboratory of Halen University, which is several thousand meters away from Halen Science and Technology Museum, France, who was sitting on the operating table, was touching a mecha engine component beside him while scanning the scene in front of him. In the corner, a group of school professors and students had been controlled there, and a dozen of his subordinates were copying and uploading data from many laboratories, and packing a lot of equipment. France sighed deeply, jumped off the table, took out a cigarette from his pocket, lit it, and took a deep puff. Chapter 58 Another Wave. Zizzy number 1 reports, someone is coming out of the target venue. A sniper who was hiding and observing on the top floor of the luxury hotel opposite the Science and Technology Museum said to the communicator. Hearing the voice in the communicator, a man who looked like an officer in the mecha team in front of the Science and Technology Museum immediately perked up and hurriedly looked towards the gate of the Science and Technology Museum. Not far in front of him, the rolling shutter explosion-proof door of the Science and Technology Museum was slowly opened, and a crowd of people walked out slowly one by one. The captain of the police metro team immediately looked over and saw the crowd coming out of the door. He immediately started to arrange the task. Metro team, get ready, exoskeleton up to rescue the hostages, sniper observe whether there are explosives or other suspicious objects on the hostages. Hearing the captain's order, everyone started to act. They dispersed their front lines one after another. Many soldiers wearing forward exoskeletons behind the 20 police mechas stepped forward and approached the hostages. At the same time, the sniper on the roof also used the scope to carefully scan the body of each hostage who came out, carefully checking whether they had any unusual items on them. Just as everything was going on in an orderly manner, a loud noise suddenly came from the Science and Technology Museum. The glass on both sides of the gate was broken, and then dozens of brand new mechas emerged from them. The police officers present immediately exclaimed. They looked at the scene in front of them in disbelief. In the square in front of the Science and Technology Museum, the dozen mechas that suddenly emerged, each of which had different styles, heights, and models, but they all had one common feature. That was that they were very brand new. The captain took a closer look and was shocked to find that these mechas not far in front of him were all exhibits in the Halen Science and Technology Museum. They were display mechas that were originally placed on the exhibition stand. He seemed to understand the intentions of these people. They actually wanted to control these advanced mechas. This was simply horrifying. Quick, suppress fire, everyone open fire, the captain immediately shouted loudly in the channel, and all the police mechas and exoskeletons raised their weapons and launched a fierce attack on the sudden mechas. There was a burst of gunfire and flames in the square in front of the Halen Science and Technology Museum. The hostages who had just come out screamed and fled everywhere, and the scene was in chaos for a while. At this time, the dozen advanced mechas modified by the Bloodskull Brotherhood also began to attack. The weapon slots behind them opened one after another, and various missiles flew out of them, whistling towards the police position. The battle between the two sides was immediately clear. The mechas of the police team did not have an advantage in number, and the mechas driven by the Bloodskulls were brand new high-performance mechas, and the casualties of the police began to appear. The two sides fired a barrage of intertwined fire in the square in front of the Science and Technology Museum. At the same time, the military fighter planes that came to support the police had also arrived and attacked the mechas on the ground. The two sides regained their balance, and the battle began to enter a tense state. At the same time, the battle situation in front of the Hainan Science and Technology Museum was also promptly fed back to the main screen of the command hall of the administrative office. Zheng Hai, the administrator who watched all this, had veins on his face and his eyes were about to burst. But at this moment, the big screen in the administrative hall showed the situation in another place at the same time. In the equipment laboratory of Hainan University not far away, the same scene was shown almost at the same time. The Bloodskull Brotherhood was able to possess such powerful firepower in a short period of time, and at the same time restrained the fighter planes and a small number of metro troops that came to support the police. The current situation can't even be described as anxious, but rather tragic. Missiles and bullets flew everywhere, hitting the surrounding buildings, grass, and squares, leaving deep bullet marks and craters. Administrator, I have received a reply from the military commander. The elite metro troops on the planet will be dropped over Halen City in half an hour, but the interstellar fleet cannot construct an impulse in a short time because the interstellar mothership has insufficient energy storage, so it needs to wait, the military staff standing next to Zheng Hai said at this time. This undoubtedly made the current situation like adding fuel to the fire, and everything was not optimistic. Administrator, do you think we should mobilize that unit? The military staff said this, but his tone seemed to emphasize another thing. Zheng Hai shook his head. No, we can't mobilize that unit. Even the military commander needs to approve the order. Zheng Hai stared at the two scenes on the screen in front of him and sighed deeply. Send my administrative guards. Let all the police metro units that can be used go to these two places for support, and at the same time, make sure to ensure the safety of the surrounding people. The people in the field realized that the usually gentle and courteous administrator in front of them was actually a bloody warrior who had fought on the battlefield. Before Zheng Hai finished speaking, a huge explosion suddenly sounded in the administrative hall. The whole building shook suddenly, scaring the people in the control room of the administrative hall, and the field suddenly became a little messy. The administrative hall was full of alarms, buzzers, flashing red lights, and the long messy scene, which made all the dazed people realize that things were completely different now. "What's the situation?" Zhang Hai steadied himself and asked loudly. At this time, a few staff members in the field came to their senses and hurriedly checked the surveillance in front of the lobby of the administrative hall. Only then did they discover that an unknown mecha team had also appeared in front of the square in front of the administrative hall. At this time, they were firing at the main door of the administrative hall. "We have been attacked by an unknown person at the administrative gate," the staff member hurriedly said. "The administrative guards are exchanging fire with them." Zhang Hai frowned again, and couldn't believe that there would be another attack at this time, and the target was actually the administrative hall of the Aquamarine Star where he was. At this time, a guard from the administrative guard rushed into the command hall, found Zhang Hai in the center of the command hall, walked over, and prepared to forcibly take Zhang Hai into the safe house under the administrative hall. But Zhang Hai suddenly shook off the guard's hand. With his hands on the railing in front of him, he said in a grim tone, "Well, these guys actually came to the door on their own. Do they really think that I, Zhang Hai, am made of mud?" The infamous blood skull really angered the chief executive, making Zhang Hai furious. Zhang Hai ignored the guard's dissuasion and walked to the equipment room on the side under the gaze of everyone present. There, Zhang Hai's own combat mecha was parked. Everyone remembered at this time that the gentle and elegant administrative chief in front of them was once a bloody warrior who had fought on the battlefield. Zhang Hai, Zhang, the piece of Halen Star, Zhang Hai will never allow anyone to destroy it. At the same time, with the assistance of the police, Yang Mu, who had just destroyed the last local mecha in the market, also turned around and saw the source of the sudden huge explosion. Just now, Yang Mu had confirmed the sound of fighting in two other places. But this sudden explosion made Yang Mu's nervousness a little more serious. After confirming that the direction of this explosion was not the direction of home, Yang Mu breathed a sigh of relief for a short time, but at the same time, the stone in his heart was suddenly lifted up. Because he saw that the direction of this explosion seemed to be in the center of Halen City. It was the most prosperous street in Halen City and also the location of the new Star Domain Administrative Office. Could this be another conspiracy of the Blood Skull Brotherhood? Or, the other party's original intention was to attack the administrative hall located there? Yang Mu was immediately horrified. He ignored the chaotic situation in the market and hurriedly controlled the mecha to turn around and rush to the latest explosion. The explosion in the direction of the Science and Technology Museum in Hainan University. From the beginning, a lot of troops have been leaning towards that side. At this time, an explosion occurred nearly 10 kilometers away from these two locations. The troops who just passed by could not return to support in time. In view of the current emergency situation, it means that there is no defense in that direction. What if the blood skeleton focuses on that? Yang Mu immediately analyzed the current situation. He took a breath of cold air, but stopped the fuselage and returned to the center of the market. The main power engine of Annihilation was damaged, and the mecha could not fly over by its own power. Yang Mu needed the help of the hovering helicopter in the sky of the market. Chapter 59 Unexpected Reinforcements. The city center of Halen City is now in a state of chaos. After the three previous explosions, the police temporarily controlled the situation in the city, but after the fourth explosion, all order was shaken. A large number of police forces in the city almost went to the explosion point, and the security environment in other parts of the city could not be guaranteed for the time being, so some guys with ulterior motives began to behave unruly. The administrative hall in the city center. The beautiful square in front of the administrative hall has been completely changed at this moment, with traces of shrapnel scratches everywhere, and it has been destroyed by the firepower of mechas everywhere, and the two sides are still fighting. However, the situation here is completely different from that in front of the Science and Technology Museum and the Equipment Laboratory. Because the mechas here are fighting, not just exchanging fire. In the narrow square, when the blood skeleton mecha team approached layer by layer, the standard guard mechas blocking in the square inevitably engaged in close combat with the opponent's mechas. Both sides were full of swords and sparks. And one of the camouflage-heavy mechas was particularly dazzling. This is the improved version of the Flying Dragon mecha driven by the administrator Zhang Hai. He is resisting two mechas of different colors at the same time. One is a ferocious mecha painted blood red, and the other is a slender mecha painted pink. The two mechas are the heavy armor driven by the bloody skeleton Franz, and the assault mecha driven by his wife nicknamed Pink Skull. Franz's wife is called Grace, who is also a ruthless character and a famous star pirate. The other members of the Bloodskull Brotherhood in the field are driving a variety of mechas, old and new, but with strong combat power, and are beating the standard mechas of the guards back step by step. These mechas driven by the Star Pirates are not ordinary goods. All of them are mechas and mecha parts from the Halen Science and Technology Museum and the Equipment Laboratory. The Bloodskull Brotherhood actually repaired the plank road in the open, and secretly crossed at Shenkang. I don't know how a group of elite mechas were secretly assembled here in a short time. And their real target is the highest executive officer of the new star domain, Zheng Hai, who is driving the Flying Dragon mecha. Haha, Zheng, just surrender. No matter how much you resist, you can't escape from my palm, France said loudly with a look of surprise on his face. This huge mission took him several months to plan. The capture of the Halen Science and Technology Museum and the Halen University Equipment Laboratory was just to allow all his brothers who participated in the operation to improve the equipment level of the mecha. At the same time, in order to reduce resistance, he also tricked the entire Halen Star interstellar fleet to leave here. Everything is going according to his plan. Especially the person sitting in the mecha in front of him is an important bargaining chip for whether he can escape from here safely. I thought I still needed to search for him, but I didn't expect that this reckless man would actually participate in the battle himself, saving me the time to find him. Hearing the other party's extremely arrogant words, Zheng Hai snorted fiercely, and the movements of his hands accelerated a bit. And the long sword picked up the attacks of the two mechas. In fact, Zheng Hai was also very surprised. He thought that there was only a small team of Bloodskulls in the square, but he didn't expect that a dozen mechas would appear from nowhere, clearing all the automatic firepower around him and putting the entire guard team in a hard fight. What he didn't expect was that the number 1 and number 2 of the Bloodskulls actually came here. The guy called Bloodskull actually appeared here with the pink skull. Two super wanted criminals in the entire star domain both appeared in front of him, and their purpose was very clear, that is, to catch him. Zheng Hai couldn't help but breathe a breath, but the opponent's actions followed one after another. The two mechas attacked the Flying Dragon again, one with a broad-bladed battle axe and the other with two chain swords. They cooperated with each other, both offensive and defensive, and the lethality was very strong. The Flying Dragon he controlled was already a little overwhelmed, but Zheng Hai could only grit his teeth and fight. It would take at least 15 minutes for the reinforcements to arrive here. He had to hold on no matter what. The three mechas clashed again. At this moment, the pink skeleton seized an opportunity and launched an attack on the back armor of the Flying Dragon. The chain sword directly pierced into the right chest armor of the Flying Dragon mecha. Zheng Hai immediately felt that there seemed to be something wrong with the right arm of the mecha. Zheng Hai had to retreat step by step and avoid the attacks of the two mechas. At this moment, the roar of airplanes suddenly sounded. Both sides looked up at the sky involuntarily, and saw that a mecha suddenly fell down from above their heads. Reinforcements are coming? Zheng Hai thought so in his heart. The mecha landed heavily, causing the entire square to tremble. France and Zheng Hai also pulled away a little, looking at the mecha that suddenly landed in front of them in surprise. This is a mecha with a luster flowing all over its body and a black body. At the same time, the mecha knelt on one leg on the ground, and the long knife in its hand supported the ground, which immediately attracted the attention of dozens of mechas present. The mecha that came from nowhere brought everyone's suspicion. And this mecha that fell from the sky was the Annihilation controlled by Yang Mu. Yang Mu was glad that he finally caught up, and it was really as he guessed. The place where the administrative office was located became the final main battlefield, and this was the place that was actually attacked. Yang Mu slowly stood up while controlling Annihilation, facing France's red mecha, and stated his position. The actions of Yang Mu's mecha obviously made France and his party feel that there was something different, but at this time, there was no time for France to hesitate. The purpose of their trip was to obtain a lot of equipment and the performance and research and development data of these equipment, and also to obtain some advanced mechas exhibited in Halen City. In order to leave here, they need Zheng Hai as a bargaining chip, and hope to obtain data on a more advanced weapon on Halen Star later. But all of this has a most basic requirement, that is, they can get these things alive to achieve their future great goals. So France shouted loudly in the channel without hesitation, "Everyone! Speed up and catch Zheng Hai first." After that, France and his wife Grace made a gesture, and the two mechas repositioned and rushed towards Zheng Hai, not taking the sudden black mecha in the field seriously. As long as they caught Zheng Hai, they would have bargaining chips in their hands, and they would be able to get everything they planned immediately, so they must not let Zhang Hai run away from them. But they did not realize that the mecha they ignored would make all their actions go to waste. Just when Zhang Hai was about to burst his eyes and manipulated the mecha again to prepare for the battle, the 7-meter tall black mecha stood up, turned his back to Zhang Hai, and blocked him. Yang Mu's action immediately made France's action stagnate, but it only paused for a moment, and then the mechas wielding broad-bladed battle axes and pink skulls attacked together. Although he didn't know what the strength of the mecha in front of him was, France would not hesitate. Now, anything that stood in front of him, he would just chop it down. Seeing the opponent's actions, Yang Mu also started to move at this time. The two cold and shining titanium alloy swords in the left and right hands of the mecha were crossed in front of the mecha, and the fuselage squatted a little. Zhang Hai, who was standing behind Annihilation, immediately realized what the mecha in front of him wanted to do. He wanted to defend, but would such a defense really work? The two mechas of the opponent were obviously modified mechas. He had tried it and it was impossible to defend it so easily. But the next second, Zhang Hai found something different. The auxiliary engines behind this black mecha were actually emitting blue light, but the two main engines on the back armor were silent. Is this guy not just trying to defend, but to launch an attack? This thought suddenly popped up in Zhang Hai's mind. Before he could find a reason to refute his idea, the black mecha moved. Seeing the two huge mechas in front of him attacking him, the green light in Yang Mu's eyes became brighter. He immediately found a flaw in the opponent and rushed over. At this time, the straight line distance between the three mechas was less than 10 meters. The opponent originally thought that Yang Mu was defending, and used a big and open move. The wide-bladed battle axe that had been raised high had to make a temporary change, manipulating the axe to twist the axe and slashing it horizontally in front of him. The pink skull was also doing the same, and the chainsword in his hand also made a horizontal slashing action. But Annihilation made an incredible move in the next second. Yang Mu manipulated the mecha to bounce up and flew over the opponent's head, thus avoiding the opponent's attack, and the fuselage stood behind the opponent. Yang Mu's action did not hesitate at all. The moment he stood still, he immediately turned back and chopped. The titanium alloy long knife swished chopped back, cutting a huge hole on the back armor of France's mecha. In the first round of competition between the two sides, Yang Mu won in such an incredible way. Don't worry about him. Rush towards Zhang Hai and catch him first. A trace of panic flashed through France's heart, but he calmed down immediately. He made clear his main goal, and ignored the powerful Yang Mu behind him, and rushed towards Zhang Hai not far in front of him. Yang Mu naturally couldn't let them succeed. So he immediately controlled the mecha and rushed over, but just after taking a few steps, a warning suddenly came from behind. Yang Mu immediately turned around to avoid it, and found that a blue giant mecha suddenly appeared behind him. The ferocious lightsaber just brushed against Annihilation's body, and at the same time, another obviously modified mecha rushed over next to him. Yang Mu had to stop to deal with the mecha coming from behind, and Zhang Hai, who was not far away, fell into crisis again. Yang Mu quickly scanned the field, and saw that there were only a few blue and white painted standard mechas still resisting in the field. The advanced mechas hijacked by the Bloodskull Brotherhood actually had the upper hand. At this time, there were still dozens of opponents' mechas in the field. The situation in the field immediately became a little grim. Yang Mu had no time to think and could only fight with a blue giant in front of him. The surrounding enemy mechas also slowly surrounded him at this time. Two fists could not beat four hands. Yang Mu, who was physically weak, could not control the mecha to perform some extremely difficult actions, and suddenly he was a little overwhelmed. At this time, a huge noise suddenly came from behind Yang Mu. Yang Mu quickly turned his head and saw that Zhang Hai's mecha had been chopped by the opponent's chainsword. The right arm of the mecha fell off, and the whole mecha was staggering and retreating backwards. Some guard mechas also seemed to see this scene and wanted to get out and rescue, but they were held tightly by the opponent's mecha. Yang Mu also swung away the attacks of the three mechas in front of him and ran back quickly to support Zhang Hai's mecha. The mechas behind him were not to be outdone and chased after him. Yang Mu had to fall into a stalemate again. The situation in the field suddenly became very critical. A trace of cold sweat also appeared on Yang Mu's head. The retired soldiers of the former 1st Mecha Regiment of Aquamarine come to support us, a voice suddenly sounded in the public channel of the mechas in the venue, and Yang Mu immediately recognized this voice. It was Uncle Lei. At the same time, On a street next to the square, nearly 10 mechas rushed over. They looked like entertainment mechas, and all the mechas had different things in their hands. Some of them held traffic signal poles from nowhere, some held heavy cement blocks, crane arms, and some mechas even held sharpened steel pipes. The appearance of these mechas that looked like gangsters fighting in the field made all the guards breathe a sigh of relief. It was like a dose of cardiotonic, which boosted everyone's spirits. Chapter 60 Reversal. In the gap before the reinforcements arrived, the appearance of Lei Shengwu and others undoubtedly changed the situation in the square. The Bloodskull Brotherhood, which had originally had an overwhelming advantage, now faced new problems. 9 brightly colored mechas quickly joined the battle, and these mechas seemed to have agreed on it. All of them were in a big and open position. Each mecha found a mecha of the Bloodskull Brotherhood and surrounded it. The whole team was like a plaster, swinging the untidy weapons in their hands, playing roguelike moves, and tightly restraining the many Bloodskull mechas in the field. Haha, Lao Zheng, this time I'm really nice. Lei Shengwu's unbridled laughter sounded again in the public channel. At the same time, he was also operating a gorgeous mecha with a red and blue fire paint. The mecha stood next to Shanghai, with a 2-meter-long heavy crane arm in his hand. Lei Shengwu actually knew Shanghai, and it seemed that they had a very good relationship. Shanghai also found that the mecha team that came was actually led by Lei Shengwu, and he was immediately delighted and laughed. Haha, okay, it's not in vain that you are my brother. The two used to share the same bunk bed in the dormitory of the military academy, but after graduating from the academy, Shanghai chose to continue his studies, while Lei Shengwu joined the mecha team of Aquamarine. However, the contact between the two has never been broken, and they have a close friendship. Lei Shengwu, who was originally in the store tonight to inspect the customer's mecha equipment, felt something was wrong when he heard the first 3 explosions, but then he saw that the troops in the city were heading that way. So Lei Shengwu didn't take it seriously. But when the 4th explosion sounded, Lei Shengwu ran out of the store and found that the explosion was about 1 kilometer away from the business district where he was, and the important organization in that direction was the administrative office of Aquamarine. Lei Shengwu was immediately a little worried. Finding that there seemed to be not many reinforcements rushing there, Lei Shengwu was a little impatient, and finally ordered the store clerk to drive the entertainment mecha that had just been repaired, and wield some simple weapons made on the spot, and rush to the direction of the administrative office. Because it was in a busy area, the government stipulated that entertainment mechas could not be driven in this area, so Lei Shengwu and his team were also very careful, and finally arrived at this juncture. Although it was unclear what the unknown team in front of him was, Lei Shengwu walked straight to his old classmate and protected the already scarred flying dragon mecha. Old Zheng, which ones are the enemies? Is this one too? Lei Shengwu raised the crane arm in his hand, and the thick hook pointed at the mecha Annihilation operated by Yang Mu. Shanghai shook his head and said quickly, this one is here to help. The others that are not standard mechas are from the Bloodskull Brotherhood. Bloodskull Brotherhood, all the channels of the newly arrived mechas exclaimed, and only then did they know that the one who made such a big noise tonight was the notorious Star Pirates. Lei Shengwu, who was standing next to Shanghai, was relieved after hearing what he said, because in Lei Shengwu's intuition, the black mecha in front of him made him feel something different. A feeling like a thorn in the back. This mecha style seems to be somewhat similar to the elite mecha style of PAJR, but there is no logo on the fuselage, which always makes Lei Shengwu feel a little uneasy. So Lei Shengwu regarded the Annihilation driven by Yang Mu as the target that needs to be most vigilant. If he knew that the mecha inside was actually driven by Yang Mu, I'm afraid his eyes would pop out. While Lei Shengwu was looking at Yang Mu's mecha, France, who was standing next to him, felt his heart sink. It had been more than 10 minutes since he launched the attack. In a few minutes, maybe the reinforcements from their regular troops would come. He had to seize every minute and complete the mission. The veins on France's face twitched, and his expression became more fierce. All brothers, gather here. Take down Shanghai first. As soon as France's fierce words fell, Yang Mu saw that the blood skeleton mechas in the field all stood still, rushed away from the mechas of the maintenance department, and headed towards Shanghai, seemingly ready to fight hard. Yang Mu naturally couldn't watch such a situation happen, so he took an attacking posture again and controlled the mecha to rush towards the blue giant and a cobra mecha in front of him. The blood skeleton rushed towards Shanghai at the same time. The remaining guard mechas and maintenance mechas rushed up to block them. Everyone fell into chaos. The weapons and equipment of the entertainment mechas themselves were weak. These mechas could not withstand the cold weapon attacks brought by the military-quality mecha weapons, so they were also defeated. Lei Shangwu could only protect Zheng Hai's mecha with great effort and continue to retreat to the administrative office behind him. The battle fell into a stalemate again. At this moment, a muffled thunder suddenly came from the sky. The thick dark clouds in the dark sky were suddenly swept away, revealing a huge starship of more than 1,000 meters, which slowly fell from the sky with smoke and fire, attracting the attention of everyone in the field again. Many citizens in Halen City also saw this scene and screamed in shock. The whole Halen City began to fall into a more panicked state. Zheng Hai also looked up at the scene in the sky in surprise. He just felt that something was wrong today, and there was turmoil everywhere. From the 4 consecutive explosions to the burning starship in the sky now, this is simply the scale of a local war. But suddenly, Zheng Hai discovered that the starship that was slowly falling in the sky seemed a little different. The specifications and style of the spaceship did not seem to be from the military. Zheng Hai, who graduated from the command department of the military academy, naturally knew the starships of Halen City very well, and the starship in the sky at this time was obviously not a warship. "Boss, is that the Blood Skull?" a subordinate trembled in France's channel. France also saw the scene in the sky. His pupils shrank slightly, and he felt that his heart was hit hard. That was indeed his Blood Skull. He agreed to let it come here when the starship troops were about to leave the spaceport, and planned to use it as a tool for his escape after he hijacked Zheng Hai. He thought that the Star Aquamarine interstellar fleet had sent out almost all large ships. With a starship like this one with a length of more than a kilometer and dozens of small modified warships, it would definitely be able to crush the space orbital defense system of Star Aquamarine. However, now the huge ship that he was most proud of was actually falling into the Star Aquamarine with flames rising to the sky. And he actually didn't receive any report on the starship from the beginning to the end. Boom boom boom. Just when France was surprised, the coastal defense guns in various parts of the planet began to fire, shooting out bright lights, bombarding the burning and falling starship in the sky, preparing to further smash it, so as to reduce the casualties caused by its fall on the land. Watching all this, France mechanically twisted his neck, and the expression on his face had become a little stiff. The current situation was completely beyond his control. The advantages he originally had were transformed into disadvantages at this moment. The action had failed, but he and others still had to leave here, so they had to catch Zheng Hai. This was a chip worth gambled with everything. "All the mechas in the maintenance department, come close to me. Protect Zheng Hai." Lei Shangwu naturally realized that something was wrong with the current situation, and immediately said loudly. Yang Mu also retreated to protect Zheng Hai. As long as he held on for a few more minutes, these people in front of him would be waiting to be killed. France suddenly roared, and all the Blood Skull class mechas realized the current battle situation and launched the most violent attacks on Zheng Hai. Some mechas even fired the last few missiles, and the field was immediately plunged into the most intense battle. At this moment, 5 black dots fell straight down from the high sky, drawing 5 white lines in the sky. These 5 black dots swooped down from space, and then fell on the streets and squares next to the administrative office. The impact on the ground was a wave of dust. The huge momentum immediately gave France goosebumps all over his body. The enemy's reinforcements have arrived. They had a large pit in the field directly. The smoke and dust had not yet completely dissipated, gradually revealing a red super-large box at the bottom of the pit. In the next second, the things inside kicked the door of the iron box directly open, making a crashing sound. "Haha, Blood Skull, you made me look for you so hard." Mechanical footsteps came from the bottom of the pit, and a dark blue mecha emerged from the box. The mecha slowly walked out of the deep pit and emerged from the smoke and dust, facing the blood-red mecha driven by France. This was a military standard Jackdaw mecha, and the pilot sitting inside was the leader of the 1st Mecha Regiment of Aquamarine, Su Wang. Chapter 61, The Beast Still Fights. France's pupils shrank slightly. Hearing the other party's extremely arrogant words, the corners of France's mouth twitched unconsciously. The Jackdaw mecha is an advanced mecha equipped by the only 2 mecha regiments on the Aquamarine. The other party's words showed that the other party was from the 1st Mecha Regiment of the Aquamarine. The 1st Mecha Regiment and the Blood Skull Brotherhood can be said to be old rivals. Over the years, the Blood Skull Brotherhood and the 1st Mecha Regiment of the Aquamarine have forged a deadly feud after countless confrontations. The result of the two sides meeting is a fight to the death. It turns out that you are a good brother of my 1st Mecha Regiment. Great, This great revenge has been avenged. Lei Shangwu, who was present, also immediately realized that the jackdaw mecha in front of him came from the 1st Mecha Regiment, and immediately said happily, "The arrival of the elite Mecha Regiment of the Aquamarine means that Shanghai is now safe. The next thing to worry about is Blood Skull himself." At this time, the other 4 jackdaw mechas that had hit the ground also completed their landing actions. They walked into the square from all directions and surrounded the Blood Skull mechas. The long swords of the dim light in the hands of each mecha popped out. The slender and simple mechas made these mechas look murderous at this time. These 5 mechas were driven by the commander of the 1st Mecha Regiment and the 4 battalion commanders. They were all experienced masters. They used such a difficult action to break into the venue in order to catch the Blood Skulls in one fell swoop. "Do you like this gift from the 1st Mecha Regiment?" Su Wang raised the arm of the mecha coldly and pointed to the sky. The fallen starship in the sky had been turned into many fragments under the bombardment of many coastal defense guns. Some heavy fighters had already opened the force field to pull them to prevent their large parts from falling on the land. Hearing this, the expression on France's face became even uglier. His starship was actually shot down by them. Could it be that the Aquamarine fleet has returned? Franston felt bad. "Don't worry, your plan succeeded, but you can fool others, not me, Su Wang." Su Wang seemed to see through France's mind, and said in a deep voice, with a sense of confidence in his tone, "Today, the mission of my 1st Mech Regiment is to catch all of you villains in one fell swoop and eliminate the trouble forever." Su Wang said this, but he didn't delay. The sharp knife in the hand of the jackdaw mech flashed with cold light and launched an attack on the mech driven by France. From the beginning, Su Wang noticed France's conspicuous mech and took him as the first target. The other 4 jackdaws also found their opponents. At this time, the whole venue became lively again. At the same time, fighter planes began to fly in the sky, and some transport ships landed from high altitude. It seems that the main force of the reinforcements began to be deployed. It has only been less than half an hour since the explosion, but so many dramatic changes have taken place in the small administrative hall square. The Blood Skull Brotherhood has also changed from being arrogant at the beginning to fighting desperately now. "Brothers, turn on all the mecha parts at full power, overload them all, come on," France shouted anxiously. All the space pirates who were controlling the mechas began to open the various parts of the mechas, and their eyes began to roll. The sound of the engine also began to roar more and more, and it seemed that they were ready for a desperate fight. At France's order, the mechas rushed forward, but at this time, France's actions were a little different. After blocking Su Wang's attack, France controlled the mecha to retreat, and ordered other men to block Su Wang's mecha. It seemed that France began to find a way out for himself and wanted to escape. But how could Su Wang let him go so easily? As the youngest leader of the Aquamarine Star, he already had extraordinary insight into the battlefield. It was impossible for him to let France slip away under his nose. Moreover, France's abnormal behavior further proved that he was the commanding mecha on the scene. To catch a thief, he must first catch the leader. Su Wang would not let him go no matter what. Su Wang rushed over in the mecha, swinging his weapons to sway 3 mechas on the way, and launched an attack directly at the blood red mecha. Yang Mu also noticed this situation, and was ready to control the mecha to help, but was blocked by the blue giant in front of him. In the previous few battles, Yang Mu had realized that the person in the mecha in front of him was actually very strong. At least it could survive under Yang Mu's attack, and it could also suppress Yang Mu steadily with the help of others. Although Yang Mu was not very interested in the blue giant mecha, he had to admit that this mecha had obvious advantages in the early battles with good equipment. The height and flexibility, especially in the flat square terrain, allowed his mecha to exert its very strong strength here. But it was time to end it all. Yang Mu didn't have time to waste any more. Yang Mu crossed the 2 long swords in front of his chest again. The 2 long swords slid slightly, sparking sparks on the swords. Then, in the next moment, the lines on the swords flashed blue arcs, and finally the blue arcs burst out from the swords. In the current mode, the long sword will have extraordinary lethality, but the energy consumption is a bit high. There is also an ion slash mode on it, but Yang Mu is not going to use it. Yang Mu glanced at the amount of annihilation energy, and there was still 26%, enough for him to use the current slash mode for 3 minutes. Looking at the blue arcs on the double swords of the black mecha in front of him, the blue giant was not timid. The same arcs appeared on the crossed double swords, and the current mode was also used. Yang Mu frowned slightly, but did not hesitate. The many auxiliary engines of the fuselage sprayed flames one after another, and then the huge fuselage rushed towards the other side. The mechas of both sides clashed, and Yang Mu wanted to make a quick decision this time. When the double swords crossed with the opponent's double swords, the two mechas were already face to face. Yang Mu's hand movements did not change, but he suddenly raised his right foot and kicked the joint of the blue giant mecha's leg fiercely. The biggest weakness of the mecha in front of him was the exposed hydraulic device and the universal joint bearing. As long as he made one of them fail, the opponent's entire mecha would be a phoenix with its feathers plucked, waiting to be slaughtered. After a few kicks, Yang Mu really made a record. The hydraulic device behind the opponent's right knee was twisted, and the leg joint began to be unable to bend flexibly. The opportunity came. Yang Mu immediately saw this situation, stepped back, and instantly distanced himself from the opponent, and then placed a long sword in his hand horizontally and vertically to make a cross. Rushing over again quickly, Yang Mu's two long swords held horizontally and vertically launched a fierce attack. The blue giant could not control the mecha to distance itself, and could only bear the attack launched by Yang Mu. Clang swish, two sharp sounds were heard. The blue giant was already injured. Although he blocked the vertical long sword with his two swords, he could not avoid the horizontal long sword due to the problem of his leg joints. The sharp long sword immediately left a dent mark on his chest armor. The blue giant was also brave at this time. After being hit by Yang Mu's sword, he did not dodge, but instead controlled the long sword to stab Yang Mu's chest. But then a scene that surprised him happened. When Yang Mu's sword was about to stab him, he slightly turned his body, and the tip of the long sword only scratched the chest armor of Annihilation, and then missed, leaving only a shallow white mark on the armor of Annihilation. After this action, the opponent's upper body was completely exposed in front of Yang Mu. Yang Mu manipulated the long sword in the left hand of the mecha and quickly and straightly inserted it into the right chest armor of the opponent's mecha. Then Yang Mu exerted force with his left hand, and the engine of the mecha arm roared, generating huge power. In the next moment, the front armor of the opponent was completely cut open diagonally downward, revealing the cockpit inside. In the cockpit, there was a guy with a skull tattoo on his face. It was Cam, but now there was a deep wound on his chest. It seemed that he would not survive. Yang Mu's series of close combat techniques immediately attracted everyone's attention. Lei Shengwu and others were shocked. When Su Wang was entangled with France, he couldn't help thinking in his mind, what was the origin of this mecha in front of him that he had not noticed just now? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 62 Fierce. While everyone was still amazed at Yang Mu's wonderful battle, France found the right opportunity and prepared to escape from here. Just 2 minutes ago, the sound in each channel of France's mecha gradually became smaller, and France's heart sank to the bottom of the sea. This situation can only mean one thing, that is, the containment forces deployed in the Science and Technology Museum and the Equipment Laboratory of Halen University have been destroyed. If he doesn't run now, everything will be completely explained here. Thinking of this, France called his wife in the channel, and the operator of the Pink Skull, Grace, also moved immediately. France suddenly launched a fierce attack on Su Wang abnormally, and the broad-bladed battle axe in his hand chopped violently horizontally and vertically, which once forced Su Wang to fend off in a panic. As the leader of a notorious star pirate group, it is natural that France can have these skills. There is no doubt. Under such a fierce attack, Su Wang could only control the jackdaw mech to slowly retreat backwards, and at this time, the Pink Skull suddenly appeared next to him. The mechanisms in the two chain swords in his hands suddenly popped open, and the tight chain sword slowly softened and then lengthened. The parts slowly stretched out and turned into a long soft sword, which was stabbing towards Su Wang's chest at this moment. Obviously, in order to create an opportunity to leave here, France and the others used their most powerful moves. Su Wang naturally saw all this, but he had no way to stop it. He was forced into panic by France, and now he had no hands to do other actions. The brothers next to him couldn't pull their hands away, but at this time, the Pink Skull's attack had already stabbed at Su Wang's body from the side. It seems that he can only resist it. Su Wang gritted his teeth and prepared to directly resist the attack of the Pink Skull. He had made a decision. As long as he resisted the opponent's attack, he could also breathe a sigh of relief and would not fall into such a passive situation again. Just as Grace was laughing triumphantly, the soft sword that was swinging towards Su Wong's chest suddenly broke. It broke into 3 pieces and fell to the ground. Grace and France stared at the scene in front of them with wide eyes. This set of combined attack skills was an attack move that the two had practiced countless times and had once made great achievements in the war, but now, it was broken like this. Su Wong was also surprised. He looked to the side and saw that the black mecha that was 20 meters away from him just now was standing in front of him. The 2 long swords in the mecha's hands were hanging down at this moment. It seemed that they had just used them to cut off the opponent's soft sword. All of this was indeed Yang Mu's action. When everyone present was surprised at his performance, Yang Mu was keenly aware that something was wrong with the blood-red mecha. He was already far away from Shanghai and others at the moment, and was approaching the block at the edge of the square. This meant that this guy was guilty and was ready to run away. Stepping over the body of the blue giant, Yang Mu swung past several mechas and soon came to the side of the blood-red mecha. At this time, Yang Mu saw that the mecha driven by Su Wong was in danger, so Yang Mu made a prompt decision and quickly adjusted the attack target. He brushed past a blood-red mecha and used his 2 long swords again to directly cut off the pink mecha's weapon. "Thank you, sir," Su Wong said in the public channel. He obviously regarded the person in the black mecha as a civilian mecha master, and said it with great respect. It's not his fault that he thinks so. It's really that Yang Mu's mecha operation ability is too confusing. Su Wong has not seen many such masters so far. Even Su Wong dare not boast that he can easily do it by using the skills of mecha fighting to such an extent. Yang Mu pouted, but did not reply. In this battle, Yang Mu never said a word in a public channel. Although Yang Mu could hear their communication, Yang Mu would never expose himself like this. Yang Mu just reset his stance, and Su Wong immediately understood what the other party meant. He also re-prepared to give France and the others a fatal blow. The blood-red mecha and the pink mecha also immediately understood their current situation. They could not succeed in one attack, so they immediately fled and retreated. However, Yang Mu and Su Wong did not think of letting them go. Annihilation swung the longsword in his hand and rushed towards the 2 mechas. Su Wong also made the same move and rushed towards the mecha in front of him. The 2 mechas moved unprecedentedly fast and arrived in front of France in a blink of an eye. France and Grace had to turn around to fight and block the attacks of Yang Mu and Su Wong. This was a real battle between Yang Mu and the mecha controlled by France. At the moment the 2 sides came into contact, Yang Mu immediately realized that the opponent's strength was very strong. At least all the series of quick knife skills he used were taken by the opponent, and at the same time, it also posed some threats to himself. However, France did not want to fight with Yang Mu, but just wanted to quickly leave the current battlefield. Yang Mu naturally could not let him succeed, and followed closely behind, holding him tightly. At this time, Su Wong repelled the pink skull in one go, and then attacked Yang Mu. Yang Mu immediately realized Su Wong's intention and also cooperated with the opponent's attack. The pressure on France's side increased instantly, and at this time, the pink skull cut into the battle again, and the 4 mechas fought again. However, Yang Mu found an opportunity and slashed the thigh of France's mecha hard. The armor on the entire thigh was cut open, and the parts inside also suffered varying degrees of damage. The pink skull immediately came to protect it, but was suppressed by Su Wong. At this time, France wanted to escape immediately. Regardless of the injuries on the mecha, he greeted Grace and controlled the mecha to run towards the next block. But Yang Mu suddenly appeared in front of the opponent as if he knew the opponent's goal, which made France's steps stop fiercely. Yang Mu's 2 bright long swords were fully exposed and stabbed fiercely, aiming directly at France's cockpit. France was horrified, not only because of why this mecha suddenly appeared in front of him, but also because the moves used by this guy were almost a move that would kill him. The pink skull was right next to him at this moment. Seeing Yang Mu's actions, Grace screamed, and Su Wong also stepped forward immediately to help Yang Mu. Yang Mu stared sharply at the direction where the knife was stabbed. The distance between the 2 mechas was less than 4 meters, and his long sword was enough to pierce the opponent's cockpit. Victory's in hand. But at this moment, a pink mecha suddenly appeared in front of Yang Mu and squeezed in the gap between Yang Mu and France's 2 mechas. Grace opened her eyes wide and looked down at the super long sword piercing her chest in disbelief. Yang Mu was also very surprised and looked at the pink mecha in front of him. At the most critical moment, the star pirate leader France, in order to survive, did not hesitate to let his lover block the attack for him. The pink mecha slowly fell down, and France also pulled out a broad-bladed battle axe on the back armor of the pink mecha. At the most critical moment, France thought of grace, swung the axe in his hand and chopped it into the back armor, hooking the pink mecha in front of him. France's vicious move worked. Grace's mecha stuck Yang Mu's sharp long knife, and failed to stab France's mecha. And Grace never dreamed that she would die in the hands of the person she loved most. Looking at the pink mecha under his feet and the reinforcements from the surrounding blocks of the blue star, France laughed loudly, and his laughter was full of arrogance, but it made Yang Mu's heart feel like it was experiencing a cold winter. I almost forgot that the person in front of me is a real murderer. No, he can no longer be called a human. Now he's the most bloodthirsty beast, devouring everything, even his companions and his lover. Chapter 63, What You Wished For. Everyone present took a deep breath at this moment. They didn't expect that the person in this blood-red mecha would be so cruel. At this time, the battle in the square had come to an end. All the Bloodskull mechas in the field fell to the ground. The mecha troops that came to reinforce had blocked the surrounding streets tightly. In the devastated square, the only mechas that were still standing, except for the guard mechas and the mechas that came to support, were the only Bloodskull mechas that could stand in the field, and the only mecha driven by France. The winner is the king and the loser is the bandit. This is a foregone conclusion. France still stood there and laughed wantonly, with a crazy expression on his face, and his slightly narrowed eyes were full of bloodshot. He had planned for more than half a year. At the beginning, everything was going smoothly. He had imagined countless times how famous he would be after success, and how he would become a feared figure in this starfield. But he was wrong. All of this was just a bubble. Before he could ride the wind, it would all vanish. And he would die in this square. Yang Mu had already distanced himself from the mecha. The opponent's fierce means shocked Yang Mu at the moment. At the same time, he made up his mind, that is, he must let him die here. Such a thing, if he let him live a little longer, it would be a threat to everyone. Su Wang had another purpose. He issued an order in the military channel, requiring all the mechas to withdraw from the battlefield after the battle, and at the same time let the mechas that came to support quickly shrink the encirclement and try to capture the opponent alive. But France, who was laughing, had other ideas. He knew that he would die today, but if it was like this, he would also drag these people in front of him to take the blame. Although everything was a defeat, he would also make them pay the heaviest price. France controlled the mecha again and turned to face the many mechas in the square. Haha, today, France, will let you be buried together for the last glory of the Bloodskull Brotherhood, France roared, and at the same time, the blood-red mecha glowed red, and all the components were forced to run wild. In this mode, the strength of the mecha will be greatly enhanced in a short period of time, but at the same time, the core components and most of the important parts of the mecha will be scrapped afterwards. Seeing this, the mechas next to them immediately formed a formation and prepared to face the opponent's attack. But Yang Mu didn't want to stand by and watch the fun, so he picked up the long knife in his hand again and rushed up. If nothing else, the opponent's look of fighting to the death, if he was allowed to completely develop the components of the mecha to the runaway state, the field would be very dangerous at least in a short period of time, and it would inevitably bring more casualties. But at the same time, Yang Mu also had his own selfishness. His most beloved father had died in the hands of the opponent. He regretted that he could not wipe them out personally in his previous life, but in this life, the opportunity was in front of him. Then let me fulfill my father's will for him. Su Wang, who was standing on the other side, also manipulated the mecha to move. He also realized that France's current actions were very dangerous and the possibility of capturing him alive would be very small. In order to reduce unnecessary casualties, Su Wang decided to go up and kill him alone to reduce the casualties that might be entangled in the troops. At the same time, Su Wang also wanted to fulfill his long-cherished wish of his mecha regiment. Completely wipe out the Bloodskull Brotherhood. Both of them had their own ideas, so they rushed towards France's mecha from two directions. When France saw two mechas rushing towards him, he immediately shouted and manipulated the mecha that was emitting white smoke to fight. The three mechas clashed, splashing bursts of sparks, and the three of them used their full strength just to cut the other party under their own swords. After a few moves, Yang Mu's double swords could not break through the opponent's defense, so Yang Mu immediately changed his tactics, which was to attack the wound on the opponent's right leg that he had cut. Su Wang also realized this immediately, and he kept interfering with France, creating opportunities for Yang Mu. But how could France, who had entered a rampage state, let Yang Mu succeed so easily? The broad-bladed battle axe in his hand was wielded vigorously, and Yang Mu still failed to succeed after many attacks. At this moment, France seized an opportunity, and the heavy handle of the broad-bladed battle axe in his hand hit Su Wang's chest fiercely, and then swung Yang Mu's mecha away. At this time, Su Wang's mecha, which was hid and could not retreat, was wide open. France turned around with a grim smile, swung the axe, and prepared to kill the opponent. But at the same time, the back of the blood-red mecha that turned around was also exposed in front of Yang Mu, and Yang Mu naturally would not miss this good opportunity. When the opponent wanted to launch a fatal attack on Su Wang, all Yang Mu could do was to rush in front of the opponent and kill the opponent's mecha. Yang Mu controlled Annihilation and jumped up lightly, raising both long swords high and slashing at France's back. France's attack also arrived at this time. Hula, two overlapping metal cutting sounds suddenly sounded, but the situation in the field was a little different. France succeeded. His broad-bladed battle axe fiercely looked at Su Wang's jackdaw mech, but it only cut into the jackdaw's shoulder, and then was firmly resisted by Su Wang's hand. Yang Mu's attack also arrived. The long sword successfully cut off the head of France's mech, but the other long sword that chopped at its chest and back armor was stuck by its heavy armor. France wanted to pull back his broad-bladed battle axe, but was held tightly by Su Wang. "Sir, it's up to you." Su Wang held the opponent's broad-bladed battle axe tightly and shouted loudly in the public channel. Yang Mu naturally knew what he had to do. He pulled out his long sword and controlled the mech to retreat 2 steps. Glancing at the mech's energy 5%, Yang Mu wondered if he could still sustain himself to complete the next move. Yang Mu stared at the other party, gritted his teeth, and the long sword in his hand flashed a blue arc again. Yang Mu made up his mind and roared, "Pay your life." Annihilation took a big step, slashing down with a long sword in his hand. All the engines behind him had turned red at this time. Yang Mu had used all his strength. He must succeed. The shining long sword suddenly illuminated the night, and the long sword accurately slashed down at the gap just now. Yang Mu closed his eyes and felt that his entire arm was hit hard, and then relaxed. Opening his eyes, Yang Mu saw that his long sword had cut a thorough cut in France's mech. The field suddenly fell into silence. After a moment, the blood-red mech loosened its grip on the handle of the battle axe, and then fell on its back. The front chest armor also bounced off by itself due to the damage, revealing France inside. France, with chestnut hair, had a dim look in his eyes. At this moment, a faint light appeared on the eastern horizon. It was the sun that had just risen. The sun's rays shone on the square at this moment, reflecting on France's pale face. The golden sunlight sprinkled on the devastated Halen city, but France's eyes were completely devoid of light. On this day, the Halen Star Army completely wiped out the Bloodskull Brotherhood that had been entrenched for a long time. On the same day, a son finally got what he wanted and avenged his father with his own hands. Chapter 64 Completion of the Bet. The game is over, congratulations on your victory, the anthropomorphic female voice sounded, and the cheers of the crowd suddenly rang out in Yang Mu's headset channel, and Yang Mu also laughed. Today is the last week of August, and Yang Mu has finally finished his training in the martial arts hall, and it just so happens that everyone has time today. Yang Mu invited Chen Kai, Dulan and Ji Hao, as well as the guy named Su Yuanming, to play a few online games in the real mecha. After the last Bloodskull attack, because of the cooperation of the planetary defense system of Halen City and the first mecha regiment that rushed back in time, the Bloodskull was finally completely uprooted, and Yang Mu also avenged his father as he wished. However, after the battle in front of the administrative office, when Yang Mu wanted to leave the battlefield and put away the Annihilation, it really took a lot of effort. Su Wang thought that the person driving the Annihilation was a mecha master who had his real name, and said on the spot that he wanted to make friends with Yang Mu. Yang Mu didn't dare to agree. At the same time, the sky was getting brighter. Yang Mu didn't want Annihilation to be exposed to the public too much, so he quickly refused and left. The other party was still pestering him. There happened to be a river flowing by the administrative office not far away. Yang Mu immediately manipulated Annihilation, who had little energy left, to dive into the water, put away the mecha in the water, and finally got rid of the other party's entanglement. However, in order to explain to his mother, Uncle A and Chen Kai why he disappeared all night, Yang Mu could be said to be the first time in his life to lie and cover up the lie to the point of wanting to collapse. Fortunately, this incident passed quickly, and the peaceful life in Halen City continued. This attack that caused a stir in the New Star domain eventually became a topic of conversation among the citizens. It is said that some shrewd businessmen also collected some fragments of the fallen battleships of the Blood Skulls and made them into some mecha styles, making a lot of money. And Yang Mu also learned from Lei Shangwu in the subsequent news that the Blood Skull Brotherhood planned this attack. Because in Yang Mu's original memory, there was no such attack in Halen City. It was only after he went to school that he heard that such a vicious incident had occurred in Fifan City near the equator. However, Halen Star handled it very properly at that time, and followed the clues to finally destroy the Blood Skull Brotherhood. However, in this time and space, Blood Skull died a little earlier, and the location was also changed to Halen City. Yang Mu learned that all this was actually closely related to the Science and Technology exhibition. Originally, in this exhibition, due to Yan Shenfu's instigation, the Blue Giant was questioned by the military. Sure enough, problems were found later. As a result, the military further improved the review standards for some of the exhibition mechas booked, and required relevant actual combat tests. All of this was finally handed over to the equipment laboratory of Halen City University for testing, which slowed down the entire exhibition time, and the time spent in Halen City was unconsciously prolonged, which gave the Blood Skull Brotherhood more opportunities. Of course, the fact that a motivational master secretly was a pirate leader with blood on his hands dominated the headlines of the news section for several days. Other star regions also reprinted this story. In addition, the market, which suffered huge damage and was also the most seriously injured, was thoroughly rectified by the City Hall after this incident. The City Hall also seized this opportunity accurately to clean up and renovate the place. Because of the renovation, Chen Kai could no longer work there. After that, he found a job as a shopping guide in a shopping mall. The salary was not much less, but the work was much easier. "Boss, your skills are really amazing." In one word, scumbag, Doolin said excitedly in the channel. Jiao Hao, who was still staying with Doolin, said disdainfully, "This is called 2 words. Look, I told you to study hard, but now you can't count, fatty. If you have the guts, let's have a duel later." "No, I'll have a duel with our local tyrant brother. He has many mechas and it's fun to play." Jiao Hao didn't respond to Doolin's words. Su Yuanming, who was on the same team, also laughed and tried to smooth things over for the two. Yang Mu also smiled, said hello to a few people, and then logged off. The game room was opened, and Chen Kai was already standing next to it with a smile. Today, Chen Kai had 2 braids, wearing suspender jeans and a white t-shirt, and she looked very cool. "Yang Mu, when did you become so good at this game?" Chen Kai narrowed her eyes and looked at Yang Mu. Yang Mu laughed and boasted that he was talented. Chen Kai rolled her eyes at Yang Mu. The two laughed and went out. Chen Kai had a day off today, so Yang Mu took her out for a walk. Since the last attack, Chen Kai has been relying on Yang Mu. Yang Mu also saw Chen Kai's weak and helpless appearance that night, so he took better care of her. Yang Mu and Chen Kai's sweet relationship in private has been going on for a long time, so it naturally cannot escape the eyes of some people, especially when Lei Ming and Lei Hong, who had just returned from tutoring, met Yang Mu and Chen Kai in the Riverside Park one day. Yang's mother and Uncle Lei knew from that day that brother Yang Mu was shopping with a beautiful sister. Yang's mother kept it a secret, but she had hinted to Yang Mu many times to ask him to bring Chen Kai to their home. Yang Mu had thought about it before, and he also told Chen Kai about it, but Chen Kai shook her head and refused. Maybe because Chen Kai was not ready yet, Yang Mu did not say much, but he could openly tell his family that he was out without having to make all kinds of excuses. It was 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Chen Kai had to go to work at 6 o'clock. Yang Mu had been shopping with Chen Kai for an afternoon, and they were both a little hungry. So Yang Mu took Chen Kai into a restaurant. Chen Kai thought it was too expensive, and hesitated for a long time, but was finally pulled in by Yang Mu. "Sit down and order the food. The food has not been served yet." Yang Mu and Chen Kaiming sit opposite each other at a table near the street window, chatting with each other about recent events. At this time, Yang Mu's watch vibrated, and Yang Mu turned his wrist to take a look. It turned out to be a message from Yuanqiu. Yang Mu raised his eyebrows. Yuanqiu did not do very well in the college entrance examination this time, but his score was a little higher than last year. Yang Mu once asked him which school he applied for, but he did not say anything, just said that his father helped to get it. Speaking of Yu Wenhong, in July, Lei Shangwu somehow found Yu Wenhong and persuaded him to come to work. Yu Wenhong was indeed very capable. He soon became a mechanical engineer in the store. At the same time, with the help of his old comrades, he also served as a mechanical consultant for a company. Yu Wenchu no longer had to go out and use some improper means to make money. Instead, he worked honestly in Uncle Lei's shop every day. Uncle Cheng kept saying that he wanted to take him as an apprentice, but Yu Wenhong disagreed and said that he wanted to teach him himself. The two of them had been blowing noses and kicking faces for several days, but in the end they became friends. Seeing Yu Wenchu sending him a message at this time, Yang Mu was still a little surprised, but he still clicked it and looked at the message. Are you free at 6 o'clock this afternoon? Looking for you to complete the bet. Yang Mu was really surprised to see this message. He didn't expect that he had almost forgotten about this matter, but Yu Wenchu kept calling the reporter, and chose today. It seems that he has made up his mind to fight with him. Yang Mu smiled and shook his head, but still agreed. Okay, where do you say? The old place. Yu Wenchu quickly replied to the message and added. I'll wait for you there. Yang Mu shrugged, replied okay, and then closed the message page. Chen Kai, who was standing by, naturally saw Yang Mu's expression, but was a little confused. Yang Mu, what's the news? Hey, a classmate of the same grade made a bet with him. Yang Mu did not hide it and said. Bet. Chen Kai frowned unconsciously when she heard this, and seemed a little worried. Seeing his look, Yang Mu said, don't worry, we already know each other, and this is just a small competition between boys. The dishes were served, and Yang Mu hurriedly invited Chen Kai to eat. Chen Kai heard Yang Mu's explanation, although she didn't quite believe it, she still didn't say anything, nodded, and started eating. After eating, Yang Mu sent Chen Kai to a large shopping mall. After waving his hand and watching her go in, Yang Mu sighed, found the right direction, and rode his bicycle over. Chapter 65, Fierce Fight. Riding a bicycle, Yang Mu came to the side of the alley next to the school. He saw a straight figure standing in the middle of the alley from a distance. It seemed that Yu Wenchu had arrived a long time ago and was waiting for him there. Yang Mu grinned, put the bicycle aside, and walked over. Seeing Yang Mu coming as promised, Yu Wenchu raised his head and looked at Yang Mu with bright eyes. Yang Mu, who walked in front of Yu Wenchu, also looked at him. To be honest, Yu Wenchu really looks a high nose bridge, a thin but handsome face, and a head of thick golden hair, with the ends of the hair slightly resting on the forehead. With a little modification, such a face can charm thousands of girls. Yang Mu was a little jealous. Let's get ready, Yu Wenchu said with a cold face, and then handed over a box in his right hand. Yang Mu looked down at the box that Yu Wenchu handed over, and immediately raised his eyebrows. This box looked very familiar to Yang Mu. It seemed to be a box used to store mechanical parts in Uncle Lei's shop. It contains the mechanical arm made by Uncle Cheng. It has been slightly modified, so there shouldn't be any problems. Yu Wenchu saw that Yang Mu was a little surprised and puzzled, so he spoke. I said before that you can use the mechanical arm to compete with me, and now I bring it to you. Yang Mu felt a little amused when he heard Yu Wenchu's words. He didn't expect Yu Wenchu to take the bet so seriously that he even remembered to bring the mechanical arm to him. No, I have a level 1 physique now, so I don't need this. Yang Mu shook his head and said confidently. Yang Mu's training in the past 2 months of summer vacation was also very effective. Moreover, because Yang Mu's foundation was good, under the dual effects of drug stimulation and double training, Yang Mu has crossed the first level of physical fitness. At the same time, Yang Mu's strength is also outstanding in the first level. The coach who trained Yang Mu also said that as long as Yang Mu practices more, he will be able to successfully break through to the second level of physical fitness in the near future. Yu Wenqiu heard Yang Mu's words, but still said expressionlessly. You still wear it, because I have reached the third level of physical fitness. Hearing this, Yang Mu's eyes widened and his mouth opened, somewhat unbelieving Yu Wenqiu's words. The third level of physical fitness, this is the highest standard for ordinary active mecha warriors. Such a physical fitness almost requires high-intensity training, and also requires more massive medicines. Even so, there is still a considerable probability of failure to advance. But Yu Wenqiu obviously does not have any of these conditions now, and the result is that he has reached the third level of physical fitness so quietly. Yang Mu secretly swallowed his saliva, and then honestly took the box handed over by Yu Wenqiu. Seeing Yang Mu take the box in his hand, Yu Wenqiu looked up at Yang Mu, then slowly stepped back, taking off his overalls and throwing them aside, revealing his muscular body. It seems that he is ready to fight with Yang Mu. Seeing that Yu Wenqiu had even set up his posture, Yang Mu did not hesitate anymore, took out the mechanical arm from the box, put it on his right arm skillfully, then stepped back a few steps, slightly adjusted the mechanical arm, and then raised his head and looked at Yu Wenqiu with burning eyes. The eyes of the two suddenly collided, and the fighting spirit rose. The next second, Yang Mu moved first, raised the silver mechanical arm in his right hand, and rushed towards Yu Wenqiu with a gust of wind under his feet. Since Yu Wenqiu said that he would complete this bet with him, the moment he accepted it, Yang Mu took it seriously, so he would naturally go all out. This is Yang Mu's principle, that is, at any time, when he determines something, he will do his best to complete it. Yu Wenqiu, who was standing opposite Yang Mu, saw Yang Mu rushing towards him, but he did not meet him. Instead, he first started the action at his feet, swept the silver mechanical arm on Yang Mu's right hand, and then locked his eyes on Yang Mu's lower limbs. After the last lesson, Yu Wenqiu can be said to have deeply reflected on his mistakes, and reflected on why he could not even beat an ordinary person with his second-level physique at the time. Is it just because the other party is equipped with a powerful mechanical arm? Yu Wenqiu, who was somewhat rebellious, naturally denied his own assumption. With the ability of a machine alone, he could completely defeat the opponent through fighting skills. However, the opponent was able to defeat him, to a large extent, not relying on the ability of the mechanical arm, but on the other hand, he also had a wealth of fighting skills, and then with the powerful kinetic energy of the mechanical arm, he finally defeated himself. So for me now, what the opponent really needs to pay attention to is the opponent's varied fighting skills, not the iron fist. Yang Mu's attack arrived in front of Yu Wenqiu with great power, and the move was very straightforward, just swinging a punch straight forward, without any skills, only with great power. Yu Wenqiu also started to move at this time. He took a bigger step, then tilted his head, measured his body, and dodged Yang Mu's move. Seeing this, Yang Mu's fist that was rushing forward immediately changed direction and swept across Yu Wenqiu's body on the side. Yu Wenqiu also threw a punch at this time. With his height of more than 1.8 meters, Yu Wenqiu attacked Yang Mu's torso. However, due to Yang Mu's sweeping fist, Yu Wenqiu had to raise his left hand to block it, and in this way, his fist missed. So Yang Mu was instantly more powerful, and Yu Wenqiu was hit directly by Yang Mu's punch. The attack was effective, but the two retreated one after another, and the two sides opened up their distance again. Yang Mu and Yu Wenqiu were actually testing each other just now, hoping to test each other's moves first, but the two of them obviously had not achieved their goals yet. Show your real skills, don't hide them, Yu Wenqiu said coldly, clenching his fists tighter. Yang Mu looked at the other party and smiled. Okay, as soon as the voice fell, Yang Mu's figure moved again, but this time, Yang Mu took advantage of the wall of the narrow alley. Yang Mu's physical condition at this time has allowed him to perform such dangerous actions, and he can use the force of the wall to make his whole body jump a little higher. The reason why Yang Mu did this was for the next action. Yu Wenqiu hoped that Yang Mu would show his true ability, so Yang Mu did not refuse and showed all his hidden abilities. Looking at Yang Mu moving forward, Yu Wenqiu smiled while dodging. This is what he was waiting for. What he needed was for the other party to try his best. Growing up in fierce battles is Yu Wenqiu's truth. Coincidentally, this truth is also what Yang Mu has been pursuing. Chapter 66 Friends. Yang Mu's body rose up, and with the power of the mechanical arm on his right hand, he smashed fiercely towards the face of Yu Wenqiu in front of him. Yu Wenqiu was one step ahead, twisting his body to avoid the attack, and at the same time raised his right foot and swept towards Yang Mu's leg. Yang Mu did not dare to neglect it, and twisted his body to avoid it again, and then kicked up. He retreated to the back. Standing still, Yang Mu panted, looking at Yu Wenqiu in front of him, and didn't know what to do. In a moment, the two of them exchanged at least 30 moves, but each time both sides were able to block the other's attack. Even if one side was injured, the other side would immediately find it back. But that was all. Apart from that, Yang Mu and Yu Wenchu could not make further progress. Both of them were a little out of breath at this moment, but their eyes were fixed on each other, ready to find each other's flaws at any time. This time, Yu Wenchu launched the attack first. He rushed towards Yang Mu with a quick step. Seeing this, Yang Mu could only grit his teeth and persist, and also rush towards him. The two figures collided with each other again. Yu Wenchu's left palm tightly grasped the fist of Yang Mu's right mechanical arm, and his right arm blocked Yang Mu's left arm. There was almost no distance between the two people who were fighting and colliding at this moment, looking at each other face to face. At this moment, Yu Wenchu's eyes suddenly made a downward movement. Yang Mu noticed it keenly, but he did not lower his head, but immediately chose to withdraw his right arm. Sure enough, while Yang Mu was still withdrawing his right arm, Yu Wenchu's movement also started. He raised his left foot and then kicked Yang Mu's foot violently. Yu Wenchu was looking for Yang Mu's tibia, which would cause great pain to Yang Mu after being hit. In this way, Yang Mu would definitely have a flaw, and then Yu Wenchu would have many opportunities. Yang Mu's right hand was tightly grasped and he couldn't pull away. Yang Mu suddenly had an idea and bent the right arm of the wearer's mechanical arm forward. Yu Wenchu's open palm was not easy to grasp Yang Mu's fist, and was pushed away by Yang Mu. At the same time, Yang Mu's elbow went to Yu Wenchu's face. Yu Wenchu saw that this was not good and could only turn sideways, but because his left foot was raised, Yu Wenchu's center of gravity was unstable and his body fell backwards. The attack and defense changed at this moment. Yang Mu naturally couldn't miss this good opportunity. His free left hand also began to exert force at this time and hit Yu Wenchu, but Yu Wenchu used both hands to support himself on the ground, and then his left foot flew up and slashed towards Yang Mu's head in the air. Yang Mu raised his right hand to block. This time, neither of them got the upper hand. But before Yang Mu could distance himself again, Yu Wenchu stood up quickly. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Yu Wenchu clenched his fist and hit Yang Mu's chest hard. Yang Mu, who had not yet stood firm, clenched his right fist without thinking, and the fist wearing the mechanical arm also hit Yu Wenchu's chest. Both of them groaned, then staggered back a few steps and separated again. Yang Mu's right hand was trembling at this moment, and his left chest was also aching. It seemed that this attack made Yang Mu a little bit uncomfortable. Yu Wenchu also hunched his body a little, with his hands hanging on both sides, and sweat on his face. It seemed that he also got nothing. Still fighting, Yang Mu said, panting. Yu Wenchu raised his head and looked at Yang Mu, but lowered his head again and said nothing. I won't fight anymore. Seeing that he didn't say anything, Yang Mu waved his hand, but he said it himself. Yang Mu felt that such a thing was completely unnecessary. It was not a big deal to make himself so embarrassed. With that, Yang Mu untied the mechanical arm in his hand. If he didn't take his right hand out of it, Yang Mu was worried that his hand would swell inside, which would be even more troublesome. No, the winner hasn't been decided yet, Yu Wenchu spoke at this time, with a little unwillingness in his tone. Yang Mu looked up at him, sighed, and said in some confusion, it's just a competition, why bother about the winner? Yu Wenchu frowned, paused for a moment, and said, this is a bet, and the winner must be decided. Yang Mu looked at the other party's resolute attitude and felt a little depressed. He walked in front of Yu Wenchu and looked up at him. Is it really that important to decide the winner? Yang Mu threw the untied mechanical arm on the ground. Let's not dwell on who is whose younger brother. Yang Mu wiped the sweat from his forehead with a corner of his clothes, looked at Yu Wenchu again, and stretched out his slightly swollen right hand. We can be friends? Yang Mu smiled as he looked at the other party. Hearing Yang Mu's words, Yu Wenchu's eyes seemed to widen a little, and he looked down at Yang Mu who was holding out his hand to him. Yu Wenchu was very surprised by this result, because he was a very strong person. His past experiences made him understand that he had to become stronger if he wanted to survive, so he trained himself day and night every day. And he finally achieved his goal and had very strong strength, but at the same time, Yu Wenchu gradually became lonely and alone. He was alone every day, and his attitude towards outsiders was also cold. So over the years, Yu Wenchu actually didn't have a friend of his own. Those who regarded him as a friend actually just saw his strength. But when Yang Mu said this, Yu Wenchu hesitated. Because Yu Wenchu felt that the person in front of him was different, Yu Wenchu had such a feeling in his heart for the first time. Although this person had had some unpleasantness with him, it was to vent his anger for his brother, but he chose to help him later, and now he even said directly that he wanted to be friends with him. Yu Wenchu is such a big man, and has experienced many things, but at this moment his mind is a little dazed. For a while, Yu Wenchu was stunned. Yang Mu was a little embarrassed to see Yu Wenchu not speaking, but in Yang Mu's heart, Yang Mu was still willing to make friends with Yu Wenchu. Although there were some unpleasantness between him and him, after learning the ins and outs of all that the other party had done, Yang Mu looked at Yu Wenchu with a new look in his heart. What's more, he has such a strong talent, and Yang Mu is willing to make friends with such a friend. But facing the topic raised by himself, Yu Wenchu did not speak, and Yang Mu was embarrassed and was about to retract his right hand. Yu Wenchu stretched out his right hand at this moment, and held Yang Mu's right hand together. He looked up at Yang Mu, and for the first time, a slight smile appeared on his face. Okay. Let's be friends. Although Yu Wenchu's tone was calm, Yang Mu still felt Yu Wenchu's surprise about this matter. Yang Mu looked at the blonde boy in front of him, then looked at the other person's palm tightly holding his right hand, nodded, and also smiled. Chapter 67 A New Journey. August 26th, Monday, was the day Yang Mu left for school to register. This time, he and Chen Ke went to the capital of Yanheron Star region together to start a new starting point in life. On this morning, Yang's mother got up early and made a very hearty breakfast for Yang Mu, and then silently helped Yang Mu to organize all kinds of things to take with him, and sometimes secretly stood by and wiped tears. Yang Mu also went forward to comfort her several times. Yang's mother held back her emotions and finally helped Yang Mu pack his things. Uncle Lei and Lei Ming Lei Hong also helped Yang Mu run around, and the family drove to the airport in Hailan City at 9 o'clock. However, Yang's mother originally wanted to go with him on this long journey, but she failed. First of all, it was because the long journey was easy to cause harm to the mother's body. On the other hand, Yang Mu was attending a military academy. Normally, military students would be integrated and dispatched by the military departments of each star region or picked up by the military academy personnel in person. However, Yang Mu was the only one in the entire star region going to that school, and Yang Shenfu, who was far away in the Nuhan star region, had already arranged for someone to pick him up. That person was Su Wang, who was standing next to Yang Mu and chatting with Lei Shangwu. The former head of the 1st Mecha Regiment of the Aquamarine Star was wearing a neat military uniform, carrying his personal belongings, and smilingly making promises to his old superior Lei Shangwu. In the last operation to eliminate the Blood Skull Brotherhood, Su Wang saw the opportunity first, rushed to help in time, and finally crushed the Blood Skulls conspiracy. The Aquamarine Star Military Department specially rewarded Su Wang with an opportunity to study in the capital star. However, the place he went to was a little different from Yang Mu. Coincidentally, Su Wang went to the military academy that Yang Mu studied in his previous life, Taishan Military Academy on the capital star. At this time, Yang Mu also saw Chen Ke, who had packed a lot of things, walking towards the terminal. Yang Mu hurriedly walked forward and saw a middle-aged man next to him helping Chen Ke to move things and then run to handle the formalities. It seems that this man is Chen Ke's uncle, but he is the only one who sent Chen Ke here, not like the others, where the whole family came. Yang Mu quickly walked forward and helped Chen Ke carry a few things. Then Chen Ke's uncle also saw Yang Mu. Chen Ke immediately realized the current situation and immediately introduced Yang Mu to her uncle with a blushing face. Uncle, this is my friend, the one I told you about going to the capital star together, Yang Mu. This is my uncle. Yang Mu also hurriedly smiled and greeted Chen Ke's uncle, and at the same time stated his identity. Chen Ke's uncle Kong Hai looked at Yang Mu, then turned his head to look at Chen Ke. There was no expression on his face, but it seemed that he also understood something. When he heard that Yang Mu was a military school student, Kong Hai's expression changed a bit. Your name is Yang Mu, right? Then, Xiao Ke is going to trouble you for help. I want to send Xiao Ke over, but it's not easy. Yang Mu smiled and nodded. Yang Mu had heard about what Kong Hai said from Chen Ke a long time ago. Chen Ke's aunt had to stay at home to take care of the two children, and Kong Hai had to go to work in the company. It would take about 10 days to go back and forth from here to the capital star. For an ordinary office worker, it would probably be difficult to get leave. Yang Mu also said solemnly, Uncle, don't worry, I will definitely help Chen Ke with the enrollment. Lei Shengwu and others also saw the situation on Yang Mu's side, and all came over. Yang Ma's eyes kept scanning Chen Ke. Lei Shengwu walked up generously, shook hands with Kong Hai, and then handed over his business card. Kong Hai also chatted with Lei Shengwu for a while. Yang's mother smiled at Yang Mu and Chen Ke. Although she didn't say anything, her expression betrayed her. It seemed that Yang's mother was very satisfied. Chen Ke was a little shy when she saw that Yang Mu's family had gathered around her. Especially when Lei Hong pulled Yang's mother's clothes and pointed at Chen Ke and said that this was the beautiful sister who was walking with her brother. Chen Ke blushed to her ears and lowered her head without saying anything. After a while, Kong Hai also went back in a hurry, but Yang's mother and her group sent Yang Mu and Chen Ke to the boarding gate. Xiao Mu, you are unfamiliar with that place. You have to take care of yourself and your classmates. Yang's mother held Yang Mu's hand with red eyes and just talked to herself. Lei Shengwu, who was standing aside, had already explained everything to Yang Mu and was about to urge Yang Mu to board the plane, but seeing Yang's mother's look, he didn't say anything for a while. Yang Mu knew that his mother was reluctant to let him go, but the time was almost up, and Yang Mu had to leave. Mom, Yang Mu grabbed Yang's mother's shoulders with both hands, stared into her eyes, pursed his lips, and said in a calm tone, I'll be back during the Chinese New Year. At this time, the boarding information was already being broadcasted on the radio, and Lei Shengwu had no choice but to urge her. Yang's mother was even more excited. But Yang's mother still held back her tears and urged Yang Mu to board the plane. Yang Mu looked at his mother deeply, nodded with a heavy face, and then walked up to Yang's mother and gave her a big hug. Mom, take care of yourself. After Yang Mu finished speaking, he let go of his mother, turned around to pick up the shoulder bag on the ground, put it on his shoulder, slowly stepped back a few steps towards the boarding gate, then turned around and walked towards the boarding gate with Chen Ke. Xiao Mu, you have to study hard, to be a person like your father. Just as Yang Mu stepped into the entrance, Yang's mother's voice suddenly came. Yang Mu turned his head and saw that Yang's mother's face was full of tears. She covered her mouth and dared not look at Yang Mu. When she saw her son was about to leave for a distant place, as a mother, she couldn't hold back her tears. Yang Mu also felt that there was something more in his eyes, but he still forced himself to smile, waved his hands, and said loudly, Okay, Mom, I will make you, my father, and Uncle Lei Hong and Lei Ming proud of me. After saying this, Yang Mu turned around, took Chen Ke, and walked into the plane resolutely. Yang Mu and Chen Ke will board the plane to the space elevator at the equator, and then go to the spaceport from there to take the interstellar spaceship to the capital star. Good afternoon, passengers. Welcome aboard the interstellar spaceship TC-9527. The destination of this flight is the capital star of the Yanhuang star region. The estimated arrival time is 4 days later. The spaceship will enter the wormhole jump at 10 o'clock in the evening. Please enter the hibernation chamber during this time. I wish you a pleasant journey. Listening to the female voice on the radio, Yang Mu sighed deeply and turned his head to look at the window next to him. Outside the window was the beautiful blue sea blue star, and Yang Mu was now on the interstellar spaceship parked in the spaceport. Chen Ke was also sitting opposite Yang Mu at this time. She also did not speak, but just glanced at Yang Mu, and her mood was also a little low. Yang Mu also knew Chen Ke's mood at the moment, shook his head, walked up to touch Chen Ke's head, and comforted Chen Ke a few words. After chatting with Chen Ke for a long time, he watched Chen Ke, who had stabilized his mood, lie down in the hibernation chamber. At this time, the spaceship had already set off, and the radio was urging passengers to enter the hibernation chamber. Yang Mu lay in his hibernation chamber, and then took out a golden medal from his arms. This is the medal of Yang Mu's father, Yang Li. Yang Mu brought it with him this time. Yesterday was the Ghost Festival. Yang Mu and his family went to his father's grave to pay tribute, which was also to comfort Yang Li's spirit in heaven. From now on, he will step onto the big stage of the interstellar. In order to still have a happy life 20 years later, he must make his future life more different. Yang Mu sighed deeply, but his eyes became more determined, holding the medal tightly in his hand. As the hibernation chamber was closed, Yang Mu gradually fell into deep sleep, and the medal in Yang Mu's hand shone in the dim light of the universe. From now on, it is a new journey. Chapter 68 Yanhuang Star. PAJR is the only country with the longest history among all the national alliances in the Milky Way. From the very beginning of human civilization, this country has always stood firm and has continued to grow stronger with the development of the times, and finally became the top of the three major powers in the world today. And this brilliant history of rise can be simply summed up in one sentence. Because this country respects equality, advocates diligence, and reveres heroes. In the long river of history, this ancient civilization with a history of nearly 6,000 years is still shining and dazzling. The area occupied by the Yanhurong star field is not large. It is the smallest star field under the jurisdiction of PAJR, but it is the most prosperous star field in the entire PAJR. In the center of the Yanhurong star field is the capital of PAJR, Yanhurong Star. As the administrative center and cultural center of PAJR, this planet is a collection of thousands of lights and shines among the stars. Yanhurong Star is a super-habitable star. The size of the planet is more than 3 times that of Aquamarine Star and about 5 times that of Earth, the home of mankind. This celestial body revolves around a moderately sized star in a suitable orbit. The rotation period and time are almost the same as those of Earth, except that the land area and the ocean area are 40% and 60% respectively, and large tracts of land are relatively scattered around the world. As the forefront of human technological crystallization, this planet is a perfect combination of nature and technology. The vegetation coverage rate on the entire planet's land area exceeds 75%, advocating the use of clean energy, and is a completely ecological planet. At 7 o'clock in the morning, the TC-9527 interstellar spacecraft was allowed to dock in the huge spaceport in the outer orbit of Yanhurong Star. Although there are many spaceports outside the entire planet, the bustling spacecraft are very orderly, and the planet is full of prosperity. Since Chen Kai woke up and saw the spectacular scene outside, he couldn't take his eyes off and kept looking at the scenery everywhere, and he didn't raise his personal terminal to take a few photos. Yang Mu was not so surprised, but when he saw Chen Kai's expression was the same as when he first came here in his previous life, he smiled knowingly. He did not disturb her, but just held her hand, took her off the spacecraft, went to the port to take the orbital train, and then took the space elevator connected to the central axis of the spaceport to the surface of the planet. Officer Su Wang was also with Yang Mu and Chen Kai at this time, because he promised to send Yang Mu and others to the school to register, and then to Taishan College to register. However, when Yang Mu and others took the space elevator to the exit of the ground station smoothly, Su Wang could end this task in advance. Because at this time in the lobby of the space elevator ground station, there were countless university reception points, and the eye-catching banners on each reception point made it easy for Yang Mu to see the banner of Kaianhan University in the most conspicuous place. After saying goodbye to Su Wang, Yang Mu pushed a lot of luggage, and then took Chen Kai's hand and walked towards the reception area. "Hello, classmate. Are you here to register at Kaianhan University?" A gentle boy with bright eyes greeted Yang Mu with a smile, and then glanced at Chen Kai behind Yang Mu. "Yes, but she is the only one who is here to register at your school." Yang Mu glanced at the Kaianhan University Student Union sign hanging on the other's chest, then nodded, and then extended his hand to indicate that it was Chen Kai behind him who was here to register, not himself. Hearing Yang Mu's words, the boy wearing gold-rimmed glasses was stunned for a moment, but immediately thought that Yang Mu was here to send his family to register. "Okay, then trouble this classmate to come over and verify the information." The boy still pointed at Chen Kai politely. Chen Kai also recovered from the shock just now, smiled and nodded, then walked forward and leaned down slightly. At this time, a white light was emitted from an instrument on the reception table, and it swept over Chen Kai's eyes. Iris verification passed. Classmate Chen Kai, welcome to become a freshman of the 223rd class of Kaianhan University. The instrument made an electronic mechanical sound, and the boy who looked like a student union member also smiled and nodded, then looked at Chen Kai's eyes and flashed. Of course, Chen Kai and Yang Mu didn't notice it. The man with glasses said to Chen Kai very politely, "Classmate Chen, welcome to join Kaianhan University. I will help you carry your things over." After saying this, before Chen Kai nodded, the man with glasses walked straight to Yang Mu's side and stretched out his hand to take over the 2 carts pushed by Yang Mu. Yang Mu stretched out his hand to stop him and said with a smile, "No need to trouble you, I can do it." The man with glasses showed a trace of embarrassment on his face, glanced at Yang Mu, turned his head to look at Chen Kai, but still nodded politely. then pointed to a few buses not far behind him and said, "The school has arranged the buses, you can get on over there." Yang Mu smiled and nodded, pushing the things over there. Chen Kai also greeted him politely, and then caught up with Yang Mu's pace. "Yang Mu, your attitude towards that senior just now was not very nice." Chen Kai seemed to see some of Yang Mu's worries, and said jokingly. Yang Mu narrowed his eyes and pretended to be angry and said, "Anyway, he is not my senior." "Hey, Kater, stay away from such seniors, they are the kind of people who eat juniors without spitting out bones." Yang Mu suddenly turned his head and looked at Chen Kai seriously and said. Pucci. Chen Kai was also stunned for a moment, looking at Yang Mu's deliberately stern face. He laughed out loud, and then patted Yang Mu on the shoulder. "Yang Mu, don't worry, you are the most handsome, I only like you." Hearing Chen Kai's answer, Yang Mu grinned a big smile, turned his head, and said in a defiant manner. "That's more like it. Yang Mu, how do you go to your school? I don't think I saw the sign of your college just now." After laughing, Chen Kai also said the doubts in his heart. "Don't worry, I already have the specific address here, it's the same if you go there by yourself," Yang Mu said nonchalantly. In his previous life, he studied on this planet, so he naturally knew many cities on this planet very well. Moreover, the people from Kunlun College had already told him the specific address, so Yang Mu just knew how to get there. That's why Yang Mu didn't worry about this at all. But it's such a big place, what if? Chen Kai looked at Yang Mu's indifferent attitude. And it seemed that he was determined to send her to school first, so she didn't say much, just pursed her lips, and then helped Yang Mu push the luggage cart. Kaianhan University, as a higher education institution on Yanhurong Star, enjoys a high reputation in the world, and also shows how terrifying its strength is. At least the area of the main campus of Kaianhan University in front of him, Yang Mu felt that there were really few schools in the world that could compare. Covering an area of nearly 1,000 square kilometers, it includes all professional disciplines of human education, and has many world-renowned experts and scholars as lecturers, professors, and mentors. It is truly the most desirable institution for many families. The bus that picks up the new students dropped off the people after entering the school. Yang Mu and Chen Kai then transferred to the suspended train on campus and came to the dormitory address on the registration instructions. After helping Chen Kai put away the large and small bags, Yang Mu took Chen Kai to eat. It was almost 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Yang Mu and Chen Kai had no appetite for breakfast today because they had no appetite after waking up from the dorm. After such a long journey, they were indeed a little hungry. The two came to the cafeteria not far from the dormitory apartment building. Yang Mu found a place to eat, and then walked around the campus with Chen Kai and chatted for a while. Only then did he prepare to leave at Chen Kai's urging and go to Kunlun College to report. Seeing that it was already past 2 o'clock, Yang Mu did not stay for long, but just asked Chen Kai to take out her personal terminal device. "What are you doing?" Chen Kai asked in confusion, but still took out her communicator from her pocket and handed it to Yang Mu. Yang Mu took it, then skillfully opened the application in the personal terminal and scanned it with his communicator. 20,000 yuan has been transferred to the account, the voice of the communicator sounded, and Chen Kai realized what Yang Mu had done, and asked in surprise. "Yang Mu, what are you doing?" Yang Mu saw that Chen Kai's communicator had received the transfer, and then raised his head and handed the communicator back to Chen Kai. The consumption on Yanhurong Star is high, Yang Mu was about to explain, but he saw that Chen Kai did not take his personal terminal, and her face turned cold at the same time, looking at Yang Mu with some displeasure. "I don't have to pay tuition for the major I study, and I have insurance to reimburse me when I get sick. I have saved my daily living expenses myself, and my uncle also gave me some, so I don't need your help." Yang Mu saw Chen Kai's sudden change in attitude, and knew that Chen Kai was a girl who didn't like to accept charity from others, but Yang Mu sighed deeply, grabbed Chen Kai's arm, looked into her eyes and said, "Kair, I know you can support yourself, but things are unpredictable. Can you do me a favor, at least, let me feel more at ease, okay?" Yang Mu is studying in a military academy, so in the foreseeable 6 months, the chances for Yang Mu to meet Chen Kai are few and far between, even negligible. Both of them are in different places, and they can't take care of each other. Letting Chen Kai carry more money can always solve most problems. Hearing Yang Mu's words, Chen Kai pursed her lips, looked at Yang Mu carefully, and then lowered her head silently. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, It means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 69 Test. Chen Kai finally accepted the 20,000 Yanhong coins that Yang Mu transferred to her. Yang Mu finally breathed a sigh of relief and was able to leave peacefully. After that, Chen Kai sent Yang Mu to the gate of Kaianhan University. The two said goodbye reluctantly, and Yang Mu also embarked on his own road to face the next challenge. Uncle, is there any place 1 kilometer ahead from here? Yang Mu, carrying his heavy luggage, pointed to a forest in the distance and asked the white-haired uncle. What 1 kilometer? The uncle sitting in front of the house asked while smoking a cigarette and glancing at Yang Mu. It's just. Is there any school 1,000 meters in this direction? Yang Mu saw that there was only this old man around, so he could only continue to ask in a friendly manner and repeat his previous question. Oh, I don't know, I haven't heard of a school over there. The uncle understood this time, but after looking in the direction Yang Mu pointed, he shook his head and took a deep puff of cigarette. Yang Mu frowned and took 2 steps back, full of doubts. I walked towards here according to the address given by the people from Kunlo College. After I got here, I was far away from Yanhong City, the largest city on Yanhong Star. Now I basically walked to the outskirts of the city. There was only this farm in front of me, and there were fewer and fewer people walking around. At this time, the positioning map of the personal terminal showed that I had to walk 1,000 meters forward before reaching the destination. But no matter how I looked at it, the forest in front of me with only one path through it did not look like there was a school in it. Yang Mu finally saw an old man next to the farm, so he went up to ask, but he didn't get any information. Sighing, Yang Mu put away his personal terminal, tightened the things on his back, and made up his mind to take a step and walk in that direction. I had only heard that this college was very powerful, but I really didn't know where this place was. Regardless of whether there was a school there, the address had been given to me. Even if it was wrong, Yang Mu would go there and take a look. Yang Mu thought about it in his heart, and his pace was also accelerated. Because it was almost 6 o'clock in the afternoon, the sky was getting dark. If he hadn't found the location of the school, he could come back here and ask for someone to stay for the night. After all, it was not a place for people to stay in the wilderness at night. After walking for nearly 10 minutes, Yang Mu finally arrived at the destination marked on the map along the weed-covered path. But when Yang Mu arrived here, there was a wasteland in front of him. There was only a forest. Apart from the rustling of leaves and the chirping of insects and birds in the forest, there was no one to be seen. Yang Mu's head was full of black lines. Looking around, Yang Mu even shouted twice, but still no one answered. It seemed that there was no guide waiting for him here. Yang Mu still waited for a while, and seeing that there was really no one, and the sky was about to darken, Yang Mu could only sigh and prepare to leave. At this moment, Yang Mu's feet suddenly tripped, and looking down, Yang Mu noticed that there seemed to be something buried beside the path, and a yellow cloth-like thing was exposed. Yang Mu squatted down curiously, picked up a branch next to him, and lifted the pile of soil, revealing a small yellow cloth bag buried inside. There was also a file bag on top. Sure enough, was this going to test him? Yang Mu smiled helplessly, realizing that what he was experiencing now might just be a test, and he was relieved immediately. But he still reached out to open the file bag and poured out the contents. A piece of paper, a piece of chocolate, a tactical flashlight, and a key. Yang Mu picked up all these things and looked at them, then took the paper, turned on the tactical flashlight, and looked at the contents on it. Hello, classmate. Congratulations on finding this bag. But this is just the beginning. The important task is coming. First, there is a set of jackets under your feet. Please make sure to put them on. Then there is a piece of chocolate in your hand. This is a small gift from me to you. There is also a flashlight and a key. Remember to bring them with you. Then here are the details of the task. Please reach the equipment point 8 kilometers away within 1 hour. There will be a metro waiting for you there. The task route is on the back. Come on, handsome boy or beautiful girl. Yang Mu finished reading the paper hastily and felt his mouth twitching. Is this the entrance exam arranged? Let's not complain about the narrative writing style of this elementary school student. He was asked to run 8 kilometers in 1 hour, and in such a mountainous environment? Yang Mu suddenly felt speechless, but at this moment, the yellow cloth bag under his feet made a sound. Yang Mu put down the paper in his hand and opened the backpack. He saw a yellow dress inside and a watch on it. The time on it was set to count down for 1 hour, but it had already started. Yang Mu was stunned. He didn't expect it to start right away, but he didn't dare to be careless. He knew it was a test. And Kunlun College was so famous that he couldn't just give up. Yang Mu quickly put down the bag on his back, took out the jacket from the small backpack and put it on, then put the watch on his hand, put on his bag again, and then looked at the goal on the paper, found the direction, and ran towards the goal marked on the paper. But as soon as he took a step, Yang Mu's face changed. Damn, why is this jacket so heavy? Yang Mu just took 2 steps and felt that this jacket was very heavy, especially on his legs. It was like 2 large iron plates were hanging on his legs, and his steps suddenly became very heavy. This was not a good thing. It was very difficult to cross country in 1 hour. He could barely complete it with his first level physique, but he also brought his backpack and zhongliang in the jacket. He was now carrying at least more than 60 kilograms, which was almost equal to his own weight. Thinking about it, Yang Mu also realized that this was an exam given by the college, which was the old-fashioned test to stimulate potential, but it was indeed very torturous. But if he threw it away now, maybe the people from the college would show up immediately and send him away. So Yang Mu had to accept this reality, and could only grit his teeth and move his legs, taking all the things here and running towards the designated location. Not long after Yang Mu left, a bearded man appeared where Yang Mu had just found the backpack, raised his eyebrows at the pit that ran away, and then put another backpack of the same kind in his hand into it. After burying the things again, the 2 black balls in the man's hands flew out of his hands, projecting a light screen in front of him, showing a map, and on this map, there were several light spots marked, all moving in one direction. The man laughed, put away his things, and walked away leisurely. Chapter 70 Mission to be continued. Sometimes people are like this. In various different situations, they can always burst out potential that they can't even imagine, and they don't even realize it. Yang Mu is also a veteran Special Forces soldier who has experienced ups and downs. He has fought in the battlefield, but today, he was chased by 2 wild boars and ran all over the mountains. It was unexpected that there were wild boars in the forest outside this prosperous city. Moreover, this kind of wild boar is as tall as 1.5 meters, more than 2 meters long, and weighs more than half a ton. Once it moves, even in the rugged mountains and forests, it is still as smooth as walking on flat ground, with a mighty momentum. Yang Mu, who was carrying a heavy bag, had been chased by these 2 rough-looking wild boars for a hilltop. Finally, on a hillside, the 2 wild boars stopped and slowly retreated with a grunt. Yang Mu leaned against the tree next to him, breathing heavily. However, when he saw the 2 wild boars retreating, he was a little nervous, because the 2 wild boars stopped chasing him for no reason. Could it be that there was something that scared the wild boars where he was standing? Yang Mu immediately clenched the dagger in his right hand and scanned the surroundings nervously. After using the tactical flashlight to confirm that there was nothing in the surrounding bushes, Yang Mu finally breathed a sigh of relief. Suddenly, the whole person became very weak, and a feeling of fatigue came over him. It seems that after the intense exercise just now, his body consumed energy too quickly. After taking out the water and food brought from his bag to replenish his energy, Yang Mu looked at his watch and saw that the countdown time on the watch was about 15 minutes. Yang Mu quickly used the positioning to see how far away from the target location was. There was still more than 1 kilometer. Yang Mu let out a deep breath, lamenting that he could actually carry such heavy things on his body and run almost 80% of the distance in 45 minutes, but at the same time Yang Mu was a little helpless that his condition was too bad. His whole body was almost sweating, and his physical condition was almost on the verge of collapse. Originally, Yang Mu thought that with his first level physique, even if he carried so many heavy things on his back, as long as he moved forward at a constant speed, there would be no problem. Within the budgeted time, he could reach the designated location. But halfway, he accidentally ran into a nest of wild boars that had just given birth, and then was chased by the 2 wild boars with red eyes on a hilltop, at least a kilometer away. Yang Mu tried his best to adjust his breathing, calmed his breath a little, and then found the right direction and continued to move forward in the direction marked on the map. Now the distance to the destination is very short. As long as he gets there, maybe he can take a rest. Yang Mu gritted his teeth and persisted, taking steps to continue moving forward. Brother, give me some water," Just when Yang Mu had walked down the hillside for less than 2 minutes, a ray of light shone from the top of the hill behind him, and then a hurried voice came. Yang Mu vigilantly shone the tactical flashlight over, and the man quickly raised his hand to shield his eyes. Yang Mu then saw that there was also a boy standing not far from him wearing a yellow jacket. He looked ordinary, and had nothing on his body except a backpack with a jacket on his back. He was not like himself who was carrying a lot of things, but he looked worse than himself. Yang Mu glanced at him, and the boy saw Yang Mu standing still and hurried over. "Brother, come to me for water, I'm dying of thirst." The boy almost paddled down the hillside to Yang Mu, panting and talking to Yang Mu. Yang Mu glanced at him up and down, and still reached out to take out the water bottle hanging on the backpack. Before Yang Mu handed it over, the boy stared at Yang Mu's water bottle with shining eyes, immediately stretched out his hand to grab Yang Mu's water bottle, opened it and drank it. Yang Mu frowned when he saw the other person drinking water like this. Yang Mu didn't want to pity the other person, worried that the other person would choke on the water. Instead, seeing the other person drinking his water in big gulps, the small water bottle was about to run out, which was not a good thing for him. Burp, the boy burped a lot of water, wiped his mouth, and then handed the empty water bottle back to Yang Mu and said to Yang Mu, "Thank you, brother. My name is Lu Hao. Are you going to Kunlun College too?" Yang Mu raised his eyes to look at the other person, took the water bottle, and said him. When the other party heard Yang Mu's response, his eyes swept over the big bag on Yang Mu's back, his eyes suddenly lit up, and he immediately said, "Brother, do me another favor, do you have anything to eat?" Yang Mu heard the other party say this, but he didn't answer, just hung the water bottle back on the backpack, then turned around and walked straight down the mountain. "Hey, brother, why don't you answer me?" The guy named Lu Hao saw that Yang Mu didn't say anything, and hurriedly walked up to Yang Mu and said, "We are classmates after all. You can always help with a small favor, right?" Lu Hao's words suddenly had a bit of unfriendly feeling. Although Yang Mu felt the displeasure in the other party's tone, his footsteps did not stop. Yang Mu really didn't have a good impression of this person who suddenly appeared. Let's not talk about anything else, just talking about this test. No matter whether the family is rich or not, at least you should expect what kind of admission test there will be when entering such a school, right? He didn't bring any backpacks with him, and was only wearing the jacket he wore at the beginning. So now that he is in trouble and stretched to the limit, he starts to seek help from others, and he is still asking for more? Yang Mu is not a good person. For such impolite people, Yang Mu has only one attitude: stay away from them. If they dare to pester him, he will have to suffer. Fortunately, the man named Lu Hao didn't say anything after saying this, so he was spared from physical pain. There are still about 10 minutes left before the end of the time. Yang Mu can already see a large area illuminated by lights not far away. It is estimated that there are still 800 or 900 meters to go. As long as he speeds up a little, he can reach the gathering place in time. Lu Hao didn't seem to say anything else, and could only follow behind Yang Mu, but his face didn't seem to look very good. With more than 2 minutes left, Yang Mu finally arrived at the striking clearing in the forest. At this time, in this field in the mountains and forests, Yang Mu saw several figures. These people were also wearing yellow jackets and carrying things on their backs. At this moment, they were looking for something on the rows of mechas in the clearing. Yang Mu was about to walk over, but he saw something written on the sign next to him. Drive the mecha to the destination. Yang Mu was stunned for a moment, and at the same time found that the watch in his hand did not stop. Yang Mu also suddenly realized the things in the mission, and hurriedly took out a key from his pocket and looked at the key. However, except for the flashing light of brass, there was no sign on it. There were nearly 100 mechas on the huge clearing in front of him. Someone had already started one of the mechas and drove away. Yang Mu stood there and was a little confused, because there was nothing on the key in his hand to indicate which mecha his key could drive. If he tried one by one, how could the remaining 2 minutes be enough? What should he do now? Just when Yang Mu was very confused, a person next to him walked past Yang Mu and boarded a Earth Dragon mecha next to Yang Mu. Then a few seconds later, the instrument of the mecha lit up, and the person drove the mecha into the jungle next to him. Seeing the other party's series of actions, Yang Mu's heart moved. Chapter 71 Doubt. Yang Mu quickly found a giant ape mecha and got into its cockpit using the lifting rope on it. Yang Mu took out the key he was holding, found the switch hole in the cockpit, and inserted the key. After twisting the key, The mecha immediately made the sound of the instrument being turned on. The dashboard in front of Yang Mu also gradually lit up, and the chest armor of the mecha also closed automatically. A set of clothes, a black combat uniform, and a huge holographic helmet were pushed out from the compartment in the cockpit. At this time, the watch on Yang Mu's hand trembled, and the countdown time on it also stopped at this time. It's true. Yang Mu was delighted, and a smug smile flashed at the corner of his mouth. This mecha is exactly as he imagined. He just looked at all the mechas displayed on this huge open space, and then an idea popped up in his mind, that is, can these mechas be driven at will? In other words, in fact, everyone has the same key in their hands, which can open any mecha here. With a try-it mentality, Yang Mu chose this giant ape mecha, and then he succeeded smoothly. Yang Mu came up wearing only his jacket, so he took off the jacket, put on the combat suit inside, and then put the jacket in the compartment where the combat suit was just stored. The operation method of the driver of this mecha is almost the same as that of Annihilation. It is also a straight tube cockpit, and the driver operates it in a standing position. The closed holographic helmet is tightly locked in the slot at the neck of the combat suit. Yang Mu then put his hands into the slots on the left and right sides, and stepped his feet into the pedal slots under the cockpit. It has been a long time since he drove the military mecha, and Yang Mu was also a little excited. The mechanical sound in the cockpit suddenly rang, and the mecha operating system came online. The mechanism in the slot completely wrapped Yang Mu's hands and feet, and at the same time, the scene outside the mecha appeared on Yang Mu's holographic helmet. This system, which is similar to the Annihilation operating system, is actually the version that military mechas have always used, but the Annihilation system has been optimized many times, and there is a primary intelligent combat system to assist the driver in operating the mecha. Although the giant ape mecha in front of him was not as sensitive and delicate as Annihilation, and it did not have the convenient somatosensory operation of Green Line, Yang Mu was still very happy that he could touch the military mecha now. As a school that trains super elites, Kunlun College was able to provide hundreds of mechas for students to take the entrance examination at the very beginning, which also demonstrated its strong background strength. At least Yang Mu did not have such treatment when he was in Taishan College. There, he did not board a military mecha for the first time until he had studied military command theory for a year. And now he's here, he can directly use these obviously retired military mechas. After manipulating the mecha and making a few small movements, a pop-up window suddenly popped up on the holographic helmet display in front of Yang Mu. Yang Mu looked at it and found that it was a new task released. Please drive the mecha to the designated location along the designated route. The route planning has been completed. Please note that if you do not drive along the planned route, you will be considered out. After reading the above prompts, a route planned on the map popped up again on the holographic helmet. Yang Mu opened his eyes wide and looked at it, then raised his head and looked in the direction of the route planned on the map through the camera of the mecha. His eyes gradually turned to the distance. In front of him was a jungle, and behind it in the distance were rolling mountains, and in the distance, it seemed to be a towering mountain. Do I have to drive a mecha to climb a mountain? Yang Mu looked up and was a little stunned when he found this situation, and then he came to his senses immediately. After operating the mecha to do a few simple movements and getting familiar with the operation of the mecha, Yang Mu put his luggage into the weapon rack of the giant ape mecha and prepared to set off. These mechas are not combat mechas now, because the thermal weapons and combat weapons originally loaded on the mechas have all been removed, and they are instead loaded with various engineering equipment. For example, on the limbs of the giant ape mecha, each limb is equipped with a large winch, and on the winch are bundles of steel cables. It seems that the task given to me by Kunlun Academy is to drive the mecha and use these tools to move forward, overcome the many difficulties that may be encountered on the road, and then approach the destination. After getting this understanding in his mind, Yang Mu confirmed these things one by one, and then he manipulated the mecha to stand up and walk towards the jungle in front of him, but before he took 2 steps, Yang Mu suddenly stopped because he suddenly discovered a problem. A problem that absolutely cannot be ignored. This mecha is now only 50% of the power. But the situation in front of him is that the destination of this route planning is at least 300 kilometers away from here, and this mecha battery can only keep this mecha from walking less than 200 kilometers at most, and it will run out of all power. This is still the case when moving on flat ground. Now this is obviously a mountainous terrain. It is a very good state for the mecha to travel 100 kilometers. Yang Mu suddenly felt something was wrong. He controlled the mecha to look at the mechas parked next to him. He was ready to take out a battery of that mecha and keep it for himself. Although he also thought about changing the mecha, he thought it was unnecessary. Kunluo Academy would not make such a low-level mistake. All the mechas placed in front of him probably only have half the power. Thinking of this, Yang Mu decided to take a different approach and remove the batteries on the waists of these mechas. However, when Yang Mu was about to disassemble them, he found that the movable armor on the battery slot was welded. And Yang Mu was also surprised to find that there was only one battery slot on his mecha, and it was also welded. This is simply a crazy method. At the same time, a prompt message popped up on Yang Mu's holographic helmet. You are not allowed to use other mecha batteries. If you violently disassemble it, the mecha will explode. Yang Mu was furious again after reading this message. This is really crazy. Not only is he not allowed to ask for batteries, but his mecha only has half the power. How can he bring such a mecha to the end? Yang Mu simply stopped and stood in the cockpit, thinking about this problem carefully. The test designed by Kunlun Academy is obviously intended to achieve a certain purpose, but what is the intention? If he wants to bring this mecha over, what other methods can he use? Yang Mu tried to guess what the other party was thinking, and at this time, the public channel of the giant ape mecha sizzled, and then a voice came from it. Ahem, excuse me, is there anyone who wants to form a team? A boy's voice sounded. The voice was crisp but with a hint of magnetism, very pleasant to the ear. This sentence immediately enlightened Yang Mu, and he immediately understood the purpose of the academy. Chapter 72 Brothers and Sisters. How to drive a mecha with only half the power through such a complex and changeable environment obstacle, and then reach the destination. There is only one purpose, that is, to hope that the students can reach the destination through unity and cooperation and help each other. Yang Mu was delighted, and hurriedly spoke in the public channel. Admi, where are you? There was a pause on the other end of the channel, and then the boy's voice sounded again. I'm driving a white skybird mecha, or you can come to me first. After listening, Yang Mu controlled the mecha to look around, and found a white mecha at a position at the end of the mecha, and next to it, two mechas had gathered. Yang Mu controlled the mecha and walked over to the man, and at this time the man sent a team channel number to Yang Mu's mecha public channel. Yang Mu switched to the team channel, and the boy's voice came from it. This is the partner who just pulled in. Hello, my name is Ji Jin, Ji of female minister, Jin of progress. May I ask what your name is, classmate? It was still the boy just now, and Yang Mu did not hide it and said directly. My name is Yang Mu, Yang for popular, Mu for solemn. Yang Mu? Hello, my name is Ji Mo, you can call me Sister Mo. At this time, another equally clear voice sounded, smiling and pleasant, but with a strong confidence in the voice. A great jackdaw mech next to it waved its hand, and it seemed to be another member of the team, a girl. This is my sister. By the way, there is another member, named Lu Hao, who has just joined our team. Ji Jin spoke again, pointing the mech arm at another mech next to it and introducing it. He is now contacting a friend he knows to join our team. Please wait a moment. Yang Mu heard that the team he joined actually had a guy named Lu Hao whom he met on the road, but he didn't feel too much resistance, just him. After all, the most urgent thing now is to find a way to pass this test. After waiting for about 2 minutes, a very tall mech came over, and it seemed to be a friend that Lu Hao had found. Sorry for the long wait, let me introduce my friend, Liu Feng. His father is the Minister of Finance of PAJR. Lu Hao also noticed his friend coming over and immediately introduced him in the channel. Welcome, let's discuss the specifics next. Seeing that everyone was present, the boy named Ji Jin spoke first, ready to discuss the next steps together, but at this moment he was suddenly interrupted by the guy named Liu Feng who had just been invited in. Since it's a team collaboration, let's choose a captain first. I recommend myself. The third level physique should be enough to serve as the captain of our team, right? The guy named Liu Feng said bluntly in the channel, and his tone seemed to think that he was giving face to everyone by being able to take this position. At this time, Lu Hao, who was standing next to him, laughed and responded. It seemed that he was wearing the same pants as Liu Feng. Yang Mu suddenly felt something was wrong. This situation happened before it even started. At this time, Ji Jin, who was standing in the white skybird mecha, also frowned. He didn't expect that this temporary member would be so eager to take charge. However, Ji Jin, who had received a good education, did not show any dissatisfaction. He just laughed gently and said in a gentle voice, "I think it's better for me to be the captain. After all, this team is organized by me." When Ji Jin's words sounded, Liu Feng immediately exploded and shouted in the channel, "What a joke! What's the reason for your organization? Do you have as rich management ability as me? My father manages a large number of people. I have the most experience in such things. This brother should listen to Brother Liu. Brother Liu is right. He definitely has the ability," Lu Hao said again, standing by. Neither side gave in to the other. For a while, a tense atmosphere spread. Yang Mu stood by and watched the sudden farce, speechless. The entrance examination of this elite college actually had such a fierce competition. Even such a small team organized temporarily, there were people arguing for the position of captain. But Yang Mu actually still supports the boy named Ji Jin to be the captain. On the one hand, he was able to actively find partners to complete the task after knowing the task, which shows that the boy is still very smart. As for the other hand, the aggressive momentum of Lu Hao and his friend Liu Feng made Yang Mu very uncomfortable. Even if he has such strong strength, he does not think about solving the problem first, but fights for power. Such people are ugly, and Yang Mu also despises them. "Humph, you two are here to make trouble on purpose, right? Brother, kick them both. We have found someone to form a team." At this time, the girl named Ji Mo in the purple mecha standing next to Yang Mu spoke in the channel, and said in a very unhappy tone. Yang Mu just smiled and said nothing, and gently said agree to show his position. "Tisk, where did these three country bumpkins come from? How dare you talk to your Uncle Liu like this?" With a big tone, Liu Feng was unscrupulous, and did not feel how offensive his behavior was. Instead, he shouted in the channel and began to insult the three people. "I think you three are just three wimps, you deserve nothing." Ugh, Liu Feng was still shouting in the channel, his words were getting worse and worse, but he suddenly stopped, and Yang Mu looked up immediately. At this moment, on the head of the mecha driven by Liu Feng, an arm of the mecha grabbed the head of the mecha, and then pulled it off violently. Liu Feng was furious in the mecha, cursing the mecha operator and wanted to fight back. But before Liu Feng could swing the fist of the mecha, the other hand of the white skybird mecha suddenly hammered on the chest armor of the heavy mecha driven by Liu Feng, smashing a big hole on it. This Ji Jin is so radical. Looking at the sudden fight in front of him, Yang Mu was immediately horrified. He didn't expect Ji Jin to take action here, and the action was so direct and straightforward, very cruel. The whole venue was filled with the sound of the skybird mecha's fist hammering on the chest armor of Liu Feng's mecha, smashing the entire mecha armor into deformation. All this was done in just 1 minute, fiercely and quickly. "Say I can, but say my family and my sister." Ji Jin's voice sounded coldly in the channel, and a little murderous intent gradually emerged in his tone. Ji Jin lifted up the opponent's mecha and said fiercely, "There is no place for you to rely on here. Even if I kill you, your father dare not say a word." Ji Jin's tone was fierce, but what he said was right, because when entering this academy, everyone signed a life and death agreement, and Yang Mu also signed it, but he didn't tell his family. Liu Feng's voice came from the mecha again. But there was no arrogance just now, and it turned into a trembling hum. Yang Mu realized that the front armor of the mecha driven by Liu Feng was now completely pressed in by Ji Jin, and it seemed that the deformed front armor had trapped Liu Feng inside. Yang Mu secretly smacked his lips, and didn't expect that this guy who spoke politely would become such a ruthless character in an instant. "Brother, well done, this guy deserves a beating." Ji Mo stood by and watched, and also said happily in the channel. At this time, Lu Hao next to him wanted to step forward, but was stopped by Yang Mu. "You two go away, Momo, go find 2 more people," indicating that they can only be team members and listen to my command. Okay, the conversation between the brother and sister sounded in the channel, and at this time, the skybird had retracted its arm, and the mecha driven by Liu Feng suddenly collapsed on the ground. Lu Hao went over Yang Mu to check on Liu Feng's situation. At this time, Ji Jin turned his head and looked at Yang Mu. "I don't care, as long as you can form a team with me." Yang Mu naturally understood the meaning of Ji Jin's action, which was to make him express his attitude, so Yang Mu spoke. At this time, after seeing Ji Jin's strength, Lu Hao did not dare to make any more mistakes, but just silently pulled up Liu Feng's mecha and laughed angrily. It seems that he will have to spend some effort to get Liu Feng out of the mecha. After a while, Ji Mo came over with 2 other mechas. One was a Titan assault, the pilot was a girl, and the other was a red giant lizard. The pilot was a boy. The 5-man team was formed, and Ji-jin naturally became the captain. When he saw that the 4 people were willing to listen to him, he began to speak. Then let's discuss the specific plan. Chapter 73 Plan. Ji-jin shared his plan drawings on everyone's mecha helmet, and then began to explain his plan. I've looked at the situation. The current situation is that the total mileage of this mission is about 300 kilometers. Each of our mechas only has half the power, which can only support a moving distance of nearly 100 kilometers. In order to consider that our mission can be completed smoothly, we have a team of 5 people, 5 mechas, and reasonable use of energy is enough to support us to the destination. Then how to do it? The mission requires that the mechas and people must reach the destination together, the girl on the Titan assault next to him said. This girl is called Yuan Miao, and she is from the New Han Star region. Well, so my plan is to divide the whole journey into 5 stages. Each person will drive his own mecha through one of the stages. The other 4 mechas will only remain on standby. The mechas on each section of the road will be responsible for leading the remaining 4 mechas. After reaching the segmentation point, another mecha will start to lead the other mechas forward. I have calculated that if the speed is maintained at a constant level, each mecha can travel about 80 kilometers with the other mechas. Ji-jin continued, marking 5 sections on the route map. No, the route is planned to go to the extinct volcano. We have to climb up and then go down. The energy consumption ratio of climbing is definitely very high. 60 kilometers is probably the limit. At this time, the boy named Quinn next to him raised a question. Quinn was the boy driving the red giant lizard mecha from PAA. As we all know, even though the Titan Assault is a lightweight mecha, its energy consumption is still higher than that of ordinary mechas. I suggest replacing this Titan with a lighter one. Quinn pointed at Yuan Miao's mecha and said, obviously dissatisfied with Yuan Miao driving this Titan Assault mecha to participate in the operation. No, I want to drive this one. If you want to change it, you foreigner should change it yourself. At this time, Yuan Miao spoke up, completely disagreeing with Quinn's statement, and his attitude was very firm. The 2 of them suddenly disagreed and were about to argue, but were interrupted by Ji-jin. It is inevitable that there will be conflicts in such discussions, but Ji-jin has already found a solution. I also understand that heavy mechas will consume more energy, but it is precisely because of this volcanic road that we must bring the Titan Assault. Everyone should understand that when climbing this volcano, due to the high slope of the hillside, some of our mechas are even difficult to climb up. Only the huge traction of the Titan Assault can pull our 4 mechas up. At this point, Ji-jin paused. As for going down the mountain, I will lead you, and we can go about 120 kilometers. So far? How did you do it? Jimo asked in confusion. Ji-jin did not keep them in suspense, and directly placed a 3-dimensional mountain scan map in front of everyone, which was the scan map of the volcano, and then Ji-jin drew on it. I found that the height of this mountain is nearly 4,000 meters. After crossing the crater, there will be a deep valley of nearly 5,000 meters from the top of the mountain to the bottom of the slope. Here I can completely rely on the characteristics of the sky bird and the flying ability of the jackdaw mecha as an aid to glide with you. The energy consumption ratio is a little lower, and even if it encounters air currents, it can still go 100 kilometers. Yang Mu nodded in his heart, realizing that Ji-jin's plan was very good. At least he could not think of such a detailed plan for the time being. The volcano was actually the most difficult stage of the entire journey. Climbing up it required a lot of energy. When going down the mountain, it was indeed possible to take advantage of the height difference between the high mountains and the plains to go a longer distance. But Yang Mu suddenly realized a problem. Just as Yang Mu was about to speak, Quinn next to him spoke again before Yang Mu did. It still doesn't work. Although Skybird and Jackdaw can carry the giant ape and my red giant lizard down, the Titan is too heavy. It is absolutely impossible to fly it down. Quinn shook his head again and pointed the finger at the Titan Raider driven by Yuan Miao again. Are you sick? Why do you always find fault with me? Yuan Miao said angrily in the channel. At this time, Ji-jin spoke again. I know this problem, but I have seen all the mechas in the field. Only the Titan Raider can pull us up the mountain. As for how it goes down, everyone will not forget the characteristics of this mecha, right? High armor toughness, strong endurance performance, gyroscope cockpit, and high driver safety. Yang Mu spoke at this time. Ji-jin looked at Yang Mu's mecha in surprise, nodded, and then said, that's right, and I didn't plan to take it with me in my plan to go down the mountain just now. Ji-jin added again. Ah, Then how are you going to get my mech down? Hearing Ji Jin's words, Yuan Miao said with some confusion. Roll down, Yuan Miao, Jimo and Quinn asked at the same time, but Yang Mu nodded when he heard this plan that was similar to what he had thought. That's right, Titan can shrink its fuselage. Although the slope of this steep valley is nearly 60 degrees, there are not many rocks on the downhill road, and there are many trees at the bottom to block it. There will be no problem if it rolls down, Ji Jin analyzed calmly. And as long as we set the rendezvous point, Titan will be able to rendezvous with us before its energy is exhausted. Okay, I agree. Quinn thought carefully for a moment and finally agreed to this plan. But, brother, then, how do we get through the crater? The route requires us to cross the entire crater, which is at least 20 meters deep, and there is also highly acidic water. At this time, Jimo, who had not asked any questions, asked directly, and directly said a question that Yang Mu was also concerned about. It seems that the people present are very smart, able to think about the problem and raise their own questions. When Ji Jin heard this question, a smile flashed across his lips, and he said confidently, "Of course I have considered this. As for that place, classmate Yang Mu, it depends on you." The Skybird mech pointed at Yang Mu's giant ape mech, and the four of them looked at Yang Mu, who was stunned. "The bundles of steel cables on you are the key to solving this problem." Yang Mu glanced at the 4 winches and 8 bundles of steel cables on the left and right hands and feet of his mech, and suddenly realized it. How could he forget this? These steel cables can completely take him and others across the crater safely. "Okay, no problem, leave this to me," Yang Mu said confidently. "But I have a suggestion. That is, cut down a few long trees and tie the limbs of our mechas together, so that when the first mech moves, it can pull the other mechas forward in linkage." Yang Mu said a plan he had thought of. Everyone thought it was very reasonable and agreed. 10 minutes later, Yang Mu used a bundle of steel cables to tie his mechas to several chopped tree trunks. The red giant lizard mecha in the first row started to move, leading the 4 mechas into the jungle. Just as Yang Mu and his group drove into the jungle, in the mecha clearing, Liu Feng, who had dyed yellow hair, sat on a mecha frame, looking gloomily at the direction Yang Mu and his group left. Not far from him, Lu Hao had already found 3 people again and was greeting Liu Feng. Liu Feng spit hard on the ground, then stood up and walked towards Lu Hao and his group. Chapter 74, Crossing the Crater. Yan Huang Star has always attached great importance to the protection of the ecological environment, so there are large tracts of forests and wetlands on the planet. Such a landscape would be the ultimate natural beauty during the day. But under the cover of night, these beautiful forests and vast wetlands reveal their hideous horror. Various animals shuttled through the jungle from time to time, causing a lot of trouble to the mecha team, but fortunately, because of the tall stature of the mecha, these originally ferocious beasts just fled in panic and put away their claws. Yang Mu and his party shuttled through it, not fast, but moving forward steadily. On the way, everyone encountered many mechas acting alone. Because they did not notice the power of the mecha, they had to stop halfway to find partners. Fortunately, the test rules required that they move forward on a planned narrow path. These mechas did not get lost, but they were in such an environment, and these people did not dare to rashly walk out of the cockpit of the mecha. On the way, someone wanted to join Yang Mu and others' team, but was rejected by Ji Jin. It must be said that Ji Jin's approach from the beginning was very correct. In the first 2 sections of the road, the red giant lizard took everyone through a swamp. The design of this mecha itself and the tools it carried made it easy to pull the remaining 4 mechas forward on this soft land. After walking 80 kilometers, the red giant lizard mecha only had 10% of its power left, so it handed the task to Yang Mu's giant ape mecha, and the remaining power was used for passing through the crater later. After changing to Yang Mu's mecha, the giant ape mecha had obvious advantages in the jungle area. The huge upper limb strength of the mecha allowed Yang Mu to easily lead the remaining mechas to the bottom of the volcano, and at this time Yang Mu's giant ape mecha still had 18% of its energy. Yang Mu and Quinn had led the entire team to walk 150 kilometers. Halfway through the journey, everyone's tasks were completed in excess. After passing the volcano smoothly, everyone could easily reach the end. The remaining power of Yang Mu was enough for Yang Mu to lay ropes on the crater, and then rely on other mechas to lead him down. The 5 people who formed the temporary team had a good understanding with each other. Although they came from all over the place, as elite students, everyone could think independently and could quickly think of solutions when encountering problems. Under the volcano, The Titan assaulter driven by Yuan Miao took the initiative to walk to the front. At this time, the other mechas also removed the wood tied to their bodies, and then used the steel cables on Yang Mu's mecha to connect each other's mechas together. "Are you ready?" Yuan Miao said in the channel. The engines behind the Titan assaulter were all turned on and were already being debugged. The tools on the Titan assaulter are the barbs on the lower limbs that can be inserted into the soil. At the same time, there are 2 support frames that can be put down behind the mecha. At the same time, there are 2 ice hammers on the hands of the Titan assaulter, which can be used here to assist in climbing. It seems that the Academy has already thought of how to use each mecha. Yuan Miao, the slope here is too steep. I suggest you don't start too fast. Remember to get close to some rocks when you walk. If there's a problem, wow. Quinn pushed his glasses and was about to remind Yuan Miao of his actions and give some suggestions, but Yuan Miao suddenly started the mecha. The Titan mecha is worthy of being one of the most powerful mechas in the world. The 2 huge engines behind the Titan Raider spewed out huge blue flames. The rolling heat waves immediately stirred up thick volcanic dust, which enveloped Yang Mu and his party. The sudden forward movement of the mecha also scared Quinn. "You are really noisy." Yuan Miao finally found a place to fight back and laughed at Quinn fiercely. Then the Titan Raider exerted force and pulled the mecha slowly up. However, on the way, although he had some disagreements with Quinn, Yuan Miao still accepted some of Quinn's suggestions, such as getting closer to some exposed volcanic rocks when operating the mecha to climb. Although most of these rocks are loose and porous basalt, they can still provide some buffer for Yang Mu and his team in case of emergency. After nearly 2 hours of climbing, the Titan Raiders finally climbed to the top of the volcano with the entire team's mecha. At the last moment, in order to leave a little energy for the Titan Raiders to cross the crater, all the mechas in the team turned on and helped to climb to the top of the volcano. "Wow, this place is so big." Jimo turned around and looked at the place where he came up in the mecha, and exclaimed excitedly in the channel. Yang Mu was driving the mecha forward to check the situation, hoping to find some good places to arrange the steel cables to help the entire team cross the crater. "Student Yang Mu, come and take a look at this situation." At this time, Ji Jin's calm voice sounded in the channel, calling Yang Mu over. Yang Mu walked over and saw that the Skybird mecha was standing next to a huge rock on the edge of the crater. Seeing Yang Mu coming over, he waved his fist at the rock next to him. The fist hit the black rock so hard that the whole fist went straight into it, and the black rock suddenly cracked a lot. Ji Jin looked at the situation and sighed deeply. Before coming up, Ji Jin had conceived another plan, that is, if the situation of the crater was not particularly bad, especially if the distance was not far, then he would use the Skybird mech to fly everyone's mech over. But now, the crater with a width of about 200 meters and an unknown depth made Ji Jin give up this idea. Although he can still bring everyone's mech over, after that, the energy of his mech will be greatly reduced, and the next gliding plan will be greatly disturbed, and it may even disrupt the subsequent plans. At this time, Ji Jin still felt that he was too confident in the past. He should have pulled 1 or 2 more mechas along the way, but now that he has left his team, the others are still looking for teammates in the jungle, and no mech has climbed up the crater like his team. It seems that he can only rely on the 5 mechas of this team. It seems that we underestimated the situation here. Yang Mu picked up a stone from the ground seriously, and the mecha's palm gently grasped it, and crushed the stone directly. Ji Jin nodded. "Well, these rocks can't bear the binding of the steel cable at all. It seems that we have to spend more effort." Ji Jin's helpless words came from the channel, and the other mechas that were still checking the surrounding situation immediately looked over. Yang Mu controlled the mecha to the edge of the volcano and looked into the crater. This volcano is a dead volcano, with a volcanic lake formed in the middle, and the water inside is all green dead water. Volcanic materials are involved in it, resulting in a very high acidity in the water. It is impossible for the mecha to wade through it directly. What's more, the situation under the lake is unknown. Then we can only use other methods, Yang Mu said in agreement. "Ah, how to get through this? Can't we go around it?" Yuan Miao said at the site at this time, but Ji Jin shook his head. "We can't go around. We have tried it before. These mechas should be monitored by high-precision satellites. Our mechas were warned just by slightly deviating from the planned route, and the route around the 2 sides of the crater is definitely beyond their plan. They are forcing us to go through the middle." Yang Mu also nodded and told his method directly. "Because there is a problem with the rock, so we can only use our mechas as stakes to tie the steel cables." "Mechas as stakes?" How do you do it? Quinn asked, obviously not thinking of how to do it. Yang Mu's meaning should be that I fly over, hold the rope, and then send you over one by one. Ji Jin quickly understood Yang Mu's idea, or maybe he had already thought of this plan, and immediately said it in the channel. But in this case, then we should consider the Titan Raider carefully. It must go over in the third place, otherwise the traction of only one mecha on one side is estimated to be unable to withstand the pull of its gravity, Quinn said at this time, and the question was directed to Yuan Miao's mecha again. Yuan Miao rarely refuted the other party. Ji Jin also nodded and said, that's true, so Jackdaw and I will go first, Titan Raider will go next, then Quinn, and finally, Ji Jin looked up at the mecha driven by Yang Mu. I'll be the last one, Yang Mu said directly, his tone calm. How can the last one come over? Jimo suddenly realized this problem and asked. The diameter of the crater is 200 meters, and the vertical height to the lake's surface is estimated to be less than 50 meters, and the steel cable cannot be fixed. Why don't I go up twice more? Ji Jin proposed his idea, but it was rejected by Yang Mu. Going back and forth twice will consume more energy, and he has another method that is a bit risky but can reduce energy consumption. Yang Mu smiled slightly, pointed to the steel cables on his body, and said, the plan is very simple. After all of you have passed, each bundle of steel cables here is 220 meters long. Pull 4 steel cables over, 1 for each of you, and 3 people each carry a winch here. When I want to pass, Yuan Miao, you drive your mecha to roll down the cliff, and the other mechas stand apart, so that I can pass. Yang Mu told his plan, but the 4 people did not speak, but carefully thought about the rationality of this plan. Okay, I agree, Quinn was the first to speak. After a while, the rest of the people could not think of any better way, so they could only agree. Seeing that everyone agreed, Yang Mu began to call on everyone to start working. Yang Mu removed the winches on his feet and right hand, and loaded one for Ji Jin, Jimo and Quinn. One end of the steel cables on all the winches was tied to his feet, and then Ji Jin took the lead in pulling a steel cable, tightened it and flew over. After successfully reaching the other side, the other mechas began to slide over on the steel cables, first Jimo's Jackdaw, then Yuan Miao's Titan Raider, and then Quinn's Red Monitor Lizard. Seeing that the 4 mechas had successfully reached the other side of the crater, Yang Mu breathed a sigh of relief, and at this time the people on the other side were also reinforcing the winches on their bodies, preparing to pull Yang Mu's mecha over. Yang Mu also moved the mecha, and seeing that there was still 15% of the energy, he prepared a little and waited for the confirmation that he could start. At this time, a proud voice suddenly came from Yang Mu's public channel. Humph, it's really a narrow road for enemies. Yang Mu turned his head and looked over. It was a team of 6 mechas. It seemed that other teams had already used the method of his team. Yang Mu frowned, feeling a little bad, because he immediately recognized the voice coming from the public channel. It was the arrogant guy named Liu Feng who was driven away by Ji Jin before. Chapter 75 Anger. Yang Mu turned around slowly and watched a red-painted burner come out of the 6-man team, slowly walked forward, and stopped 2 or 3 meters away from Yang Mu's mecha. It seemed that the pilot inside was Liu Feng. Yang Mu, what's wrong with you? At this time, Ji Jin's voice sounded in the channel, and it seemed that he noticed something was wrong here. It's okay, I just ran into people from other teams. Are you ready? Yang Mu did not say that he had run into Liu Feng and his team. After all, he could reach the other side with the help of his teammates soon. There was no need to care about the previous things with the other party. Doing so would only cause trouble for his team. Thinking of this, Yang Mu ignored Liu Feng, turned around on his own, tightened the steel cables tied to his mecha, and waited for Ji Jin to be ready. But at this moment, a green mecha blocked his way, and from this mecha, a defiant and proud voice also came out. Hey, you've made things so difficult for our brother Feng, and now you want to leave like this. Yang Mu also recognized this voice immediately. It came from the guy named Lu Hao. It seems that these 2 people really have the same taste. At this moment, the green mantis mecha driven by Lu Hao was blocking Yang Mu. It seems that these 2 guys don't want to give up. But Yang Mu still can't start a dispute here. After all, fighting here will consume the energy of the mecha for no reason. This is unwise, and his mecha doesn't have much energy. So Yang Mu decided to give in. We are all classmates. I don't think it's necessary to make it so tense. Bah, who is your classmate? Liu Feng didn't give Yang Mu any chance and said directly. Besides, everyone hasn't passed the test yet. Whether we are classmates or not is another matter. Liu Feng's vicious words sounded in the channel. Yang Mu sighed. It seems that there is no way to end it peacefully today. At this time, Ji Jin asked about Yang Mu's situation again, and told Yang Mu that he was ready. Yang Mu did not explain too much, and just kept silent, preparing to pass the crater first. With this in mind, Yang Mu opened the engine behind him to the maximum, ready to eject later. Yang Mu was about to issue instructions to his partners on the other side, but saw a red-painted arm slapping his mecha. Yang Mu immediately made an evasive move, but because the mecha stood on the edge of the crater, such a sudden movement suddenly made the rock under Yang Mu's feet unable to support it, and the center of gravity of the entire mecha suddenly became unstable, and it actually fell into the crater. Yang Mu was horrified, but he still calmed down immediately with his strong willpower, manipulated the mecha's footsteps, coordinated with the tail flame of the mecha engine behind him, and then stepped hard on the rock wall, finally standing still at the end, alleviating the crisis. A wimp like you who doesn't even dare to accept my challenge, and you still dream of entering Kunlun College? Aren't you afraid of being laughed at by others? Haha, the instigator of all this was Liu Feng, and now he was standing where Yang Mu just stood, laughing at Yang Mu loudly. Lu Hao, who was standing aside, also laughed loudly, but the other mechas who formed a team with him did not make any moves. Yang Mu originally thought that there would definitely be competition and suppression of others for students who could enter this school. He didn't want to cause so much unhappiness, so he tolerated it everywhere. But Yang Mu didn't expect that after the Great Waves, some people were arrogant from beginning to end, and only wanted to kill others. Their dirty hearts were not worthy of Yang Mu's tolerance. Yang Mu was really angry this time. He always thought that we were classmates and didn't want to cause any unhappiness, but now, the other party was taking his life as a joke. Such people were not worthy of being Yang Mu's classmates. The smoke and dust cleared, and Liu Feng's laughter gradually stopped, because at this moment, Yang Mu's giant ape mech, not far in front of him, stood straight at this moment, silently untying the winch and the steel cable tied to it. Liu Feng's face showed a trace of seriousness, and he realized that the atmosphere was a little different, because the mech in front of him did not speak, but was concentrating on untying the equipment on the body. This sudden change of scene made Liu Feng a little uncomfortable. Some people like to be scum, dogs, and only know some despicable means, so even if it's a dog with gold teeth, Yang Mu's calm voice sounded in the public channel, and the mech suddenly raised its head. You can't change eating shit. Yang Mu's calm voice came from Liu Feng's channel, but there was anger in the calm, like the calm before the storm. Yang Mu raised the head of the mecha and looked straight at Liu Feng. The next moment, the shape of the entire mecha began to change and rush towards Liu Feng. Liu Feng grinned and was about to block Yang Mu's attack, but when Yang Mu attacked in front of the opponent, his footwork suddenly changed and kicked out horizontally. Liu Feng controlled the mecha to retreat and dodge, but the mecha controlled by Yang Mu suddenly jumped up at this time, made a roundhouse kick in the air, and hit Liu Feng's mecha directly in the chest, kicking the burner backwards a long distance. Liu Feng's mecha immediately fell to the ground. Liu Feng was also horrified in his heart. At the same time, he roared in the channel and ordered several team members who followed him to help. Lu Hao also controlled the mecha forward at this time. Just when 3 or 4 mechas were moving and trying to surround Yang Mu's mecha, a mecha suddenly fell from the sky. The gray volcanic ash was lifted up by the jet flow of the other engine, but it still couldn't block the other's eye-catching white figure. It was the Skybird mecha driven by Ji Jin. Yang Mu, are you okay? Ji Jin manipulated the mecha to stand up and asked. It's okay, Yang Mu replied, looking at the Skybird standing in front of him. He didn't expect Ji Jin to fly back to help him. That's good. Some people can change their eating habits. They will remember it after a beating, Ji Jin said jokingly in the channel, obviously knowing that the person in front of him was Liu Feng. In fact, when the situation on Yang Mu's side appeared, Ji Jin had been paying attention. Originally, Ji Jin didn't want to waste energy in such a place, but at this time, Ji Jin saw that Yang Mu's mecha was attacked and fell towards the crater next to it. Ji Jin could not stand immediately. His partner was being bullied by others. If he just sat back and watched, it was not allowed in the precepts that Ji Jin believed in. So Ji Jin immediately drove the mecha to fly over the crater again to support Yang Mu. Looking at Ji Jin who came to support him, Yang Mu had a new definition of Ji Jin's character in his heart. This person seemed to be a man of friendship and a person worth making friends with. Just after he got into trouble, Ji-jin and others could have completely abandoned this temporary teammate. If nothing else, Yang Mu had led the entire team for a distance. At this time, Yang Mu's mecha had no more value. If it were some other people, they might really abandon Yang Mu. But Ji-jin did not, but came to help at the cost of precious energy. This shows that Ji-jin regarded himself as a part of it. Yang Mu, don't get entangled with him first. The most important thing is to complete the test, Ji-jin said at this time, but Yang Mu shook his head rarely. Yang Mu has a consistent principle in doing things, that is, courtesy first and then force. He can treat others with courtesy at the beginning, but once he starts fighting, Yang Mu will not give up easily, because that is not Yang Mu's style. And this will only make others think that he is a softie. What's more, the guy in front of him almost caused him to have a big accident. Yang Mu will never let him go. Wait a moment, today I want to tell some people what it means that there are always people better than you, Yang Mu said in a firm tone, and then controlled the mecha forward. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone, see you in the next video.